Chapter 1399. 1399 Chapter 1399 Local Genius. Everyone gathered in the valley and looked at the three young men in surprise. Just now it was these three young men who had sounded the drum. Why did they sound the drum and gather everyone? Everyone's here. One of the young men looked at the crowd and said indifferently, "No one made a sound. Alright, I believe you've heard about the news of entering the great emperor's secret realm in 3 months. The young man continued, the corners of his mouth rising with cold arrogance. Let me tell you, this is the good fortune that you have accumulated over several lifetimes. If it weren't for this reason, you would never have been able to join Dragon God Valley in your lifetime, let alone enter the great emperor's secret realm. So you must seize the opportunity, understand?" The young man's voice reverberated throughout the valley, but everyone could hear the disdain in his voice. It was like a prince looking down at a group of beggars. Many people frowned but did not say anything. From their tone, these people should be locals and not from a continent outside of Yuan continent. Since he was from the Yuan continent, no one knew if he was related to the higher-ups of Dragon God Valley. Naturally, no one refuted the young man. Alright, let's get to the point. The man in front of you is the peerless genius of Dragon God Valley, young Master Yin Feng. Why don't you pay your respects to him? The young man pointed to a young man in the middle. Among the three young men, the leader was the one in the middle. He looked to be in his early 20s and was dressed in silver. He had a cold and arrogant expression as he looked at Lu Ming and the others with a faint disdain. "Greetings, young Master Yin Feng." There were a few people who cupped their fists. What kind of attitude is this? Young Master Yin Feng is also going to enter the great emperor's secret realm this time. We'll give you a chance to join him and become his subordinates. You'll enter the great emperor's secret realm and listen to his orders. In the future, when you're in the Dragon God Valley, young Master Yin Feng will naturally take care of you. The young man spoke, finally revealing their true purpose. They actually wanted Lu Ming and the rest to join young Master Yin Feng and become his subordinates. Lu Ming sneered. The great emperor's secret realm was a place of great fortune. Naturally, it would not only be for outsiders like them. The local talents of the major sects would definitely enter as well. Yin Feng and the other two seemed to be at the supreme level, so they would definitely enter. They had a good idea. Now they would gather Lu Ming and the others in their hands. When they entered the great emperor's secret realm, they would use them to gain benefits for themselves. This was something that everyone present could figure out with just a little thought. "I'm sorry, I'm used to being a loner. I don't have any thoughts of becoming someone else's subordinate. Goodbye." A bald young man said coldly and was about to return to his cave. Buzz. With a flash, the young man who had spoken appeared in front of the bald young man. "You want to refuse?" The local youth said coldly. "I don't have the habit of being someone else's dog." The bald young man sneered. He was implying that the other party was just a dog of Yin Feng. "You're looking for death." The local youth's face turned completely dark and a cold, killing intent spread out. "It's already a blessing that you've cultivated for 8 lifetimes for a lowly ant from a savage island to be able to join Dragon God Valley. You don't know how to bow your head in gratitude and you dare to be arrogant in front of me, Yin Feizhang. It seems that you'll forget who you are if I don't teach you a lesson." The native young man was called Silver Flying Badge and he emitted a powerful aura. "I'm not afraid of you." The bald youth's aura also bloomed. He was also at the supreme being level. These young men were all at the peak of their respective continents. They were invincible among their peers and looked down on others. All of them were proud and arrogant, so how could they be willing to become someone else's subordinate? At the same time, Silver Flying Badge was also a supreme martial artist. Why would he be afraid of a fight at the same level? Then I'll let you know how weak you, the lowly trash of a savage island, are. Come on, I'll let you have 3 moves. Silver Flying Badge said coldly. "There's no need for you to let me win. I'll defeat you in 10 moves. The bald youth shouted. He was also an extremely proud person. Buzz. The bald youth's body emitted a yellow halo, which was his domain. The embryonic form of the domain enveloped the Silver Flying Badge. "A small trick. Since you don't know your own strength, it'll fulfill your wish." The Silver Flying Badge stepped forward, and a domain also appeared on his body. The 2 domains met in the air. However, an unexpected scene occurred. The moment the 2 of them touched each other, the bald youth's domain collapsed. The bald youth's expression changed greatly and he retreated a few steps. Buzz. At this moment the silver flying badge moved. In an instant, it appeared in front of the bald young man and slapped at him. The bald young man's face was solemn. He exhaled and also struck out with his palm. Bang! When the two palms met, the bald young man's expression changed drastically. His body was knocked back continuously and he spat out a mouthful of blood. How could that be? The bald young man looked at Yin Feizhong in disbelief. They were both Zhizuan realm experts, yet he couldn't even withstand a single strike from the other party. How was this possible? His self-confidence had taken a heavy blow. The other young men were all shocked. It wasn't that the bald youth wasn't strong, but that the silver flying badge was too strong. Domain martial technique. Lu Ming spat out a few words. He possessed a portion of the 9 dragons' memories, so he was naturally very knowledgeable. With a single glance he could tell that the silver flying badge was using a domain-level martial technique. A domain martial technique could unleash the power of a domain to the extreme. Furthermore, domain martial arts techniques were very precious. Even in the major sects of the Yuanlu, not everyone could practice them. Martial arts techniques of creation existed in some small continents. However, it was impossible for those small continents to have domain martial techniques. Just now, the silver flying badge had used a combat domain martial technique to defeat the bald youth in one move. Now do you know how trashy you are? Did he really think that he was an expert? Let me tell you, the reason why Dragon God Valley gathered you here is not because of your strength, but because your cultivation is too weak. In Dragon God Valley, there are many heaven's favorites who are already at the Martial Emperor realm. They cannot enter the Great Emperor Secret realm. There are too few people below the Martial Emperor realm. That's why I've come to your remote village to gather you. Do you understand? Silver Flying Badge said coldly. Many people were shocked. The Dragon God Valley accepted them as disciples and called them here, not because of their strength or talent, but because there were not many weak talents in the Dragon God Valley. This was a great irony for the top heaven's favorites from the various continents. Especially the bald youth whose face was ashen. If any of you don't agree, I don't mind crippling him and throwing him out. After all, you're not the only disciples recruited from overseas this time. It doesn't matter if I cripple a few. Silver Flying Badge's voice was getting colder and colder, which made many people's faces turn ugly. Chapter 1400 Blood Oath Contract. The crowd's expressions made Yin Feizhong's cold and arrogant expression even more arrogant. He scanned the crowd and spoke again. Who else would like to experience it? Come out. I will let you know how useless you are. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment no one stepped out. The Silver Flying Badge's combat strength was too strong. No one was confident. I'll try. After a while a young man in a yellow robe stepped out. Good, you have guts. Then I'll teach you a good lesson. Yin Feizhong looked at the yellow-robed young man with a sharp and cold light. The crowd retreated, leaving a large open space. The Silver Flying Badge and the yellow-robed youth stood opposite each other. The yellow-robed young man didn't hold back at all. A dragon's roar resounded throughout the valley, and a yellow true dragon appeared above his head. The 9 golden chakra glittered. This was the bloodline of the yellow-robed young man. The yellow-robed youth immediately used bloodline fusion. Buzz. Then a mountain peak appeared above the yellow true dragon's head, exuding a powerful pressure. An emperor's spiritual weapon. So it's an emperor's spiritual weapon. You think it's useful just because you have one? You're really naive. Silver Flying Badge sneered. Buzz. Then with a flash of his entire body was filled with a green radiance as he pounced toward the khaki-colored true dragon. Roar. The yellow dragon roared and pounced at the Silver Flying Badge with its claws. At the same time the mountain expanded rapidly and pressed down on the Silver Flying Badge. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. Silver Flying Badge's figure flickered and suddenly multiplied into 18 figures. Each figure waved its hand and a green chain flew toward the yellow dragon. The 18 chains were extremely fast. They instantly wrapped around the body of the yellow true dragon and wrapped around it. The yellow dragon struggled with all its might, but the green chains were too strong to break free. Suppress. The khaki-colored true dragon roared, and the emperor's spiritual weapon in the shape of a mountain peak pressed down on the other party. Heavenly Wind Divine Art. Silver Flying Badge sneered. A green domain spread out and then turned into a huge palm print, hitting the mountain. Thump. With a huge explosion, the green palm print was destroyed, but the mountain also flew back. The Emperor's spiritual weapon was sent flying by the silver flying badge. What a powerful domain martial technique. Lu Ming could see clearly from the crowd that Silver Flying Badge had been performing the domain martial art technique from the beginning to the end. This was a domain martial skill that could change in thousands of ways. It pushed the power of the Silver Flying Badge's wind domain to the extreme. It was very mysterious and its power was shocking. The yellow-robed youth's bloodline fusion and his Emperor's spiritual weapon would definitely be powerful. On the continent of the Divine Ruins, the yellow-robed young man was definitely able to fight against an emperor, and he was even slightly stronger than an ordinary first-level martial emperor. However, he was still no match for Yin Feizhong, which showed how strong Yin Feizhong's combat strength was. Then with a flash, the silver flying badge appeared on top of the yellow true dragon's head and slapped it with its palm. Roar. The yellow dragon let out a wail and then exploded, revealing the yellow-robed young man's body. Silver Flying Badge stomped on the face of the young man in yellow robe, directly pushing him to the ground, blasting a big hole. If you want to fight me with this bit of combat power? You're simply courting death. You're courting death. Silver Flying Badge shouted coldly. He suddenly exerted more force on the young man's face. The young man screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Many people looked indignant. On the side, Yin Feng and another young man looked on coldly as if they were watching Yin Feizhong stomping on a little chicken. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge this young master? Just step forward. Silver Flying Badge said loudly. No one spoke. Since no one says anything, I'll take it that you've all tacitly agreed to join young master Yin Feng. Alright, then sign the blood oath contract now. A scroll appeared in Silver Flying Badge's hand. When he unfurled it, it was covered in inscriptions. What? You still want us to sign a blood oath contract? No, we can't sign a blood oath contract. If we do, we'll really become your slaves and be under your control. Instantly, the scene burst into an uproar and many people shouted. The blood oath contract was unique to the Yuan continent. Once signed, it was the same as a blood oath that could not be violated. In this case, wouldn't they have to listen to Yin Feng's control for the rest of their lives? How could these proud and ambitious heaven's favorites from the various continents accept this? What's with the noise? I'm telling you, you have to sign it today even if you don't want to. Moreover, this blood oath isn't for a lifetime. It's only limited to the exploration stage of the secret realm, understand? Silver Flying Badge said, but everyone was still resentful. No one would sign. What a bunch of fucking idiots. Silver Flying Badge started to lose his patience and scolded. Do you think you are Heaven's Pride experts? Let me tell you, in the Yuan continent you are nothing. You're just a bunch of trash. If you don't submit to young Master Yin Feng, I guarantee that you will not have a good life in the future. Danger lurks in every corner of the Yuan continent. Ferocious beasts are everywhere. I guarantee that you won't even know how you died. If young Master Yin Feng protects you, you will have a good cultivation environment. This was already a blatant threat. However, the power of his words was indeed strong. It made many young men hesitate. That's right. There were many experts in the Yuan continent. While there were opportunities, there was also a high level of danger. They couldn't stay in Dragon God Valley to cultivate their entire lives. They had to go out and temper themselves. If that happened, it would be really dangerous if Yin Feng and the others did anything. Moreover, in a large sect like Dragon God Valley, having a backer was indeed much better than cultivating alone. Some of the young men were tempted. Alright, I'll sign it. I'll sign it too. Finally, someone spoke up and agreed to sign the blood oath contract. Only then did a smile appear on Yin Feizhong's face. This is more like it. Come up and sign. More than a dozen young men stepped forward and signed their names on the blood oath contract with their own blood. The yellow-robed young man under Yin Feizhong's feet also signed the contract obediently. What about you guys? With the blood oath contract in hand, Yin Feizhong walked to the young women and looked at them coldly. The young women's expressions kept changing. In the end, they gritted their teeth and signed the contract. You guys. Then Silver Flying Badge held the contract and looked at the others. They had no choice but to lower their heads. They gritted their teeth and signed the contract. Very quickly, about 50 people had signed the blood oath contract. We won't sign it. Suddenly, a deep voice rang out. Everyone looked over and found that the person who spoke was a simple and honest young man. Beside him, there were two people who looked exactly the same as this young man. The triplets. Chapter 1401. 1401 Another innate spirit body. You guys aren't signing? The smile on the silver flying badge's face disappeared and was replaced by a stern look. That's right, we won't sign it. We three Yuan brothers will never be manipulated by others. One of the three brothers said. He. It seems that if I don't cripple a few people today, you'll really think that I won't dare to be ruthless. Yin Feizhong sneered. After saying that, silver flying badge emitted a green light and a wisp of cold killing intent. The three brothers gathered together and looked at the silver flying badge cautiously. Buzz. Silver flying badge made his move. A blue palm print was sent toward one of their dantian. Boom. The triplets shouted at the same time. The auras on their bodies actually connected with each other. Their auras merged seamlessly and their auras rose sharply. One of them threw out a punch and it collided with the palm of the silver flying badge. With a loud explosion, silver flying badge's body trembled and he was sent flying backward. The triplets also took a few steps back at the same time. You have some skills. Yin Feizhang's face turned cold. He didn't expect that the triplets' auras would be able to combine and resist his domain martial skill. Kill. Silver flying badge shouted and attacked the triplets again. However, the triplets stood together and exchanged a few moves with silver flying badge, but the result was the same. They were evenly matched and the silver flying badge could not defeat the triplets at all. Many people's eyes lit up. The Heaven's Pride experts of the Yuan continent were powerful and had cultivated domain martial arts techniques. However, there were too many of them in the continents outside of the Yuan continent. There would always be some outrageous Heaven's favorites who could compete with the local Heaven's favorites. As long as they could resist the other party, they could skip the blood oath. After more than 10 moves, Silver Flying Badge still couldn't take down the triplets. His face turned completely cold. Buzz. A silver hook appeared in Silver Flying Badge's hand. The silver hook was covered with spikes and looked extremely dangerous. An Emperor spiritual weapon. Silver Flying Badge finally used his Emperor spiritual weapon. The triplets' expressions changed slightly. A shield appeared in their hands at the same time. 3 shields, 3 identical ones, and all of them were King's spiritual weapons. Buzz. Buzz. The silver hook in Yin Feizhang's hand swept toward the triplets, but one of them blocked it with a shield. Flang. The silver hook swept against the shield, but the shield did not move at all. Flang. Flang. The silver hook in Yin Feizhang's hand swept out like lightning, instantly sweeping out hundreds of ripples. Even the space had a slight ripple. One must know that this was the Yuan continent where the space was extremely stable. It was extremely difficult to break open the space. To be able to cause a ripple in the space, one could see how terrifying the power was. However, the silver hooks kept hitting the shields and the triplets were as steady as Mount Tai. In the end, even Yin Feizhang's bloodline fusion couldn't break through the defense of the triplets. These 3 brothers are interesting. Lu Ming smiled faintly. All right, I'm done. At this moment, a cold voice sounded which made Yin Feizhang's heart tremble. He withdrew his bloodline and turned into a human with an ugly expression. The one who spoke was Yin Feng. What a piece of trash. You can't even deal with the ants of a few savage islands. Shut up. Yin Feng stepped forward with his hands behind his back and scolded coldly. Yin Feizhang's expression changed drastically. He glared at the triplets and stepped aside with his head lowered, not even daring to make a sound. Are you going to surrender and obediently sign the blood oath contract, or do you want me to do it myself? Yin Feng's gaze swept over the triplets. The 3 of us will never sign a contract. We won't be manipulated by others. At worst, we'll just die. One of the triplets said while the other 2 nodded. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Yin Feng's face turned cold. A layer of silver light emanated from his body. His muscles bulged slightly and a silver domain spread out. Boom. Yin Feng suddenly attacked. His fist glowed with a silver light as he threw a punch at the triplets. A muffled explosion sounded in the air. Block it. The triplets roared. Thump. Yin Feng's silver fist landed on the shield, causing it to shake violently. The triplets' faces changed and they were forced to retreat. The three of them retreated more than a dozen steps before they could stabilize themselves. So strong. Everyone looked at Yin Feng with shock and disbelief. The strength displayed by the silver flying badge was already strong enough. Ordinary heaven's favorites of the same level couldn't even take one move from the silver flying badge. However, the triplets were able to withstand Yin Fizhang's attack. But now the triplets were forced back a dozen steps by Yin Feng's punch. Spirit body? An innate spirit body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Yin Feng's physical body was actually a spirit body. Yin Feng had yet to break through to the emperor level and was only at the supreme martial artist level. As such, his spirit body was only an innate spirit body. Lu Ming thought of Zhou Xian of the Di family, who also had an innate spirit body and amazing combat strength. Moreover, once an innate spirit body entered the martial royal realm, it could transform and become stronger and more amazing. No wonder this Yin Feng was so arrogant. He had an innate spirit body. Not bad. To be able to take one of my punches without being defeated, it is something to be proud of for someone from a mere savage island to have such an achievement. But just now, I only used 50% of my strength. Let's see how many punches you can take from me. Yin Feng said coldly and threw another punch. Hold on. One of the triplets roared as a true dragon appeared above their heads. The three of them used bloodline fusion and their shields expanded rapidly, covering the bodies of the true dragons. Thump. Yin Feng's punch once again landed on the shield, causing it to shake madly. Rings of terrifying sound waves spread out, causing some people's faces to change drastically. They were so shocked that they almost spat out blood. Bang. Bang. The triplets backed away as their dragon claws moved on the ground, blasting huge holes in the ice. If this was the Divine Ruins continent cluster, the ground within a radius of 10,000 miles would probably have exploded. The true dragon that the triplets had transformed into trembled and almost exploded. What? Yin Feng's face turned cold when he failed to take down the triplets with 2 consecutive punches. He felt that his dignity was being challenged. It should be my turn to break. He suddenly roared and a pair of silver gloves appeared on his hands. Without a doubt, the silver glove was an emperor's spiritual weapon. With his emperor's spiritual weapon, Yin Feng punched out again. This time, the triplets were no longer able to withstand the impact. Their shields were sent flying and their blood vessels collapsed. They returned to their original forms and were sent flying. They crashed into the wall of the valley and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. You can be proud of yourself for being able to take 3 of my punches. I'll give you a chance to sign the contract last. Yin Feng said indifferently with his hands behind his back. He then looked at Yin Feizhang and chided, "Continue signing." "Yes, yes." Yin Feizhang bowed and walked forward with the blood oath contract in his hand. He stared at one of the men and scolded, "Hurry up and sign." Chapter 1402. 1402. You're not even comparable to an ant. The man had no choice but to sign it. Then a few more people signed the blood oath contract. With the blood oath contract in hand, Yin Feizhang came to Qiu Yingying and Qiu Haoshan and scolded, "Hurry up and sign." "I won't sign it." Qiu Yingying bit her red lips and said, "What?" Yin Fizhang's face turned cold. Yin Feng's face was cold and his eyes flashed with killing intent. He had personally made a move and displayed his powerful combat strength. Now there were still people who didn't want to sign. They were completely ignoring him. "If you don't sign it, do you know the consequences?" Silver Flying Badge said coldly. "The Great Sovereign Secret Realm is full of danger. You made us sign the contract that we will be at your command in the Great Sovereign Secret Realm. We will become your chess pieces. When you encounter danger, you will let us go first and you will reap the benefits, right?" Qiu Yingying said loudly. His words caused many people's expressions to change drastically. That was indeed the case. If Yin Feng and the others were in danger in the Great Emperor Secret Realm and they were asked to help, they would be in grave danger. At that time they wouldn't even be able to keep their lives, let alone an opportunity. Some of the people who had signed the contract turned pale. "What did you just say? You're looking for death?" Silver Flying Badge shouted. This was their original plan. They had come here to find some scapegoats to work for them in the mystic realm. He did not expect that Qiu Yingying would directly expose him. "Although your combat strength is strong, we have so many people here. If we work together, why would we be afraid of you?" Also, the seniors of Dragon God Valley have summoned us over a vast distance. We haven't entered the great Emperor's secret realm yet. I don't believe you can do anything to us, Qiu Yingying said loudly. Qiu Yingying's words made Yin Feng Yin Feizhang and the other two's faces turn ugly. Bitch, don't think that I don't dare to touch you. You're just an ant. Even if I kill you, what can I do? Die. Silver Flying Badge shouted angrily and he threw a palm at Qiu Yingying. Qiu Yingying's expression changed as she hurriedly retreated. However, the Silver Flying Badge was extremely fast, like a green lightning bolt. It quickly blasted towards Qiu Yingying. Little sister. No. Qiu Hao cried out. He wanted to help, but it was too late. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Qiu Yingying and threw a punch. Bang. This figure's punch collided with Silver Flying Badge's palm, and Silver Flying Badge was forced to take a few steps back. Lu Ming. Brother Lu. Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao exclaimed in shock. The figure that suddenly appeared in front of Qiu Yingying was naturally Lu Ming. Previously, Lu Ming had not made a move, because there was no need for him to do so. He didn't know anyone else at the scene, so why should he make a move? However, now that Qiu Yingying was involved, Lu Ming had no choice but to take action. Brat, you dare to attack me? The Silver Flying Badge glared at Lu Ming coldly. You dare? Who do you think you are? Why would I not dare? What a joke. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hearing this, Yin Feizhang's expression froze for a moment. Then he revealed a ferocious killing intent and shouted, Die. The silver hook reappeared in his hand and he swept it toward Lu Ming. He decided to kill Lu Ming as a warning to others. Get lost. 9 streams of dragon power burst forth as he activated the prison suppressing heavenly art and punched out. Boom. The terrifying fist force exploded with an ear-piercing sound, shaking the void. Silver Flying Badge's expression changed drastically. He felt a terrible force rushing toward him with an unstoppable force. His body trembled violently and he was sent flying backward. Bang! Silver Flying Badge's body hit the ice wall, and he spat out a mouthful of blood with the sound of bones breaking. Hiss hiss hiss. A series of gasps rang out in the venue. Many people were dumbfounded as they looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had actually injured the Silver Flying Badge with one punch. Just now, the Silver Flying Badge's combat strength was obvious to all. It was definitely powerful. It had cultivated a domain-type martial arts technique and far exceeded the prodigies of the same level. However, it could not even withstand one move from Lu Ming. The contrast was too great. It turned out that there was such a powerful person among them. Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao were also dumbfounded. As expected of a person who has awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Qiu Yingying's beautiful eyes flashed with a crystal light. Ah, brat, I'm going to kill you. The Silver Flying Badge roared and struggled to get up. Buzz. However, a figure flashed and Lu Ming appeared in front of Silver Flying Badge. He grabbed Silver Flying Badge's throat and slammed him against the ice wall. Boom. The ice wall made a violent sound. Silver Flying Badge was like a toad that was hit by a brick. It let out a strange scream and blood flowed out of its mouth and nose. What are you shouting for? Do you really think you're strong? You're the one who calls others trash and ants. In my eyes, you're the ant. Lu Ming said indifferently. The Silver Flying Badge struggled desperately in Lu Ming's hands, but it was as helpless as a weak little chick. You think you're superior? You're just born in the Yuan continent and have cultivated the domain martial technique. Apart from the domain martial technique, who else here is worse than you? Lu Ming continued. This made many people clench their fists and their confidence, which had been hit hard, returned. That's right, the Silver Flying Badge only cultivated a domain technique. Its talent might not be better than theirs. In the future, if they also practiced and comprehended martial arts techniques, how could they be worse than the Silver Flying Badge? It was just a temporary advantage. These people were the top geniuses of their respective continents. They had tough minds and quickly regained their confidence. Release him. At this moment, an extremely cold voice came from behind Lu Ming. It was Yin Feng. At this moment, Yin Feng's body was covered in a layer of silver light. Even his eyes were flashing with silver light. A bone-piercing killing intent was emitted from his body. Lu Ming clasped Yin Feizhang's neck and turned to look at Yin Feng with a faint smile. You're quite bold and your combat strength is not bad. However, since you've been so arrogant the moment you came to Dragon God Valley, you'll have a miserable ending. Yin Feng said coldly. He looked at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a dead man. Arrogant. Hehe, so you're saying that I'm going to be bullied by you and I can't even resist. If I resist, it's called arrogance. Is that the logic of a pig? Lu Ming sneered. Yin Feng's face turned even colder and his killing intent was bone-chilling. From the moment you said those words, you're dead. No one can save you. Oh. Was it? I don't know how many people have said this to me since I started cultivating, but in the end they all became dead fish. I hope you won't be the next one. Lu Ming sneered. Don't compare me to those ants you've met. Yin Feng said. Hehe, in my eyes, you're not even as good as an ant. Also, there's no need to keep this blood oath contract. Lu Ming threw the silver flying badge far away and held the blood oath contract in his hand. You dare. Yin Feng shouted. I'm so scared. Lu Ming sneered. His essential core burst forth and the blood oath contract turned into ashes. Chapter 1403. 1403 Chapter 1403 Crushing Yin Feng. You're looking for death. Yin Feng roared and his entire person seemed to have turned into a ball of silver light as he charged towards Lu Ming. Boom. He threw a punch and a silver fist force was aimed at Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming, be careful. From behind, Chiu Ying called out worriedly. Lu Ming smiled and threw a punch. Bang. The two fists met and like a thunderclap, the entire valley was filled with a violent roar. A figure was forced to retreat. Every step he took left a huge pit in the ground. It was Yin Feng. The person who retreated was Yin Feng. Kill. Yin Feng was pushed back by the attack. He howled into the sky and his body was covered in silver light as if he had turned into a silver person. The power of his territory and spirit body was activated to the extreme. He put on the pair of emperor gloves again and threw a punch at Lu Ming. So strong. The power of this punch made the others turn pale with fright as they felt a powerful shock. Yin Feng was too strong. They felt that if they were in his place, they would not even have bones left when they faced Yin Feng's punch. He is indeed very strong. This was Lu Ming's thought. Lu Ming felt that Yin Feng was stronger than Zhou Xian whom he had encountered before. However, what did Lu Ming have to fear? The early stage of the Chaos Realm covered his fist. He punched out and the shadow of the prison-suppressing steel flashed on his fist. Boom. The two fists met for the second time. A blinding light burst out from where the two of them were standing. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at the two of them. Who would win? Bang. The light exploded and a figure was sent flying far away, hitting the ice wall of the valley. It's Yin Feng. It's him, he's lost. The scene was in an uproar. How is that possible? How is this possible? On the side, the other young man who came with Yin Feng and Yin Feizhang widened their eyes in disbelief. They felt as if they were dreaming and could not believe what was happening. Yin Feng was a famous heaven's favorite in Dragon God Valley. He had an innate spirit body and unparalleled combat strength. There were not many who could match him in the same level. But now he had been defeated by people from a mere savage island. Furthermore, it was a crushing defeat. How could a person from a deserted island be so strong? Kill. I'm going to tear you apart. Yin Feng had gone completely mad. A silver true dragon appeared above his head. Yin Feng performed the bloodline fusion and turned into a silver true dragon that pounced at Lu Ming madly. Is it useful to go crazy? Lu Ming sneered. He soared into the sky and punched out with both fists. Boom. Boom. The primal chaos domain, weighing hundreds of millions of caddies, struck the silver true dragon. The silver dragon roared and rolled in the sky. However, after a few moves, the body of the silver dragon trembled and cracks appeared before it exploded. Within the silver light, Yin Feng's main body appeared. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Lu Ming looked down from above and took 9 steps. All 9 steps landed on Yin Feng's face, leaving 9 shoe prints. Yin Feng's body crashed heavily onto the ground and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. How do you feel about being stepped on the face by the ant you speak of? Lu Ming said coldly. His words made Yin Feng's chest tighten and he spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely weak. He was furious. Yin Feng's entire body seemed to be burning with anger and was filled with crazy killing intent. He had actually been stepped on by an ant. If this matter were to spread, he would definitely become the laughingstock of Dragon God Valley and be ridiculed by his competitors. All of this was due to his defeat to Lu Ming. He could not wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Now get lost, Lu Ming said coldly. If this place wasn't Dragon God Valley, he wouldn't have let Yin Feng leave. He would have killed him and left no one alive. However, this was Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming had just arrived here. Moreover, Yin Feng's background was definitely not simple. If Lu Ming killed Yin Feng in front of everyone, he would definitely face revenge and be in danger. Therefore Lu Ming let Yin Feng go. Bastard, just you wait, just you wait. After Yin Feng said that, he left with Yin Feizhong and the others. Lu Ming, you've offended Yin Feng. I'm afraid he'll take revenge on you. Qiao Yingying walked over and said worriedly. It's fine. I didn't kill Yin Feng. I only injured him. It's a fight between peers. The elders won't be so shameless as to take revenge. They'll only take revenge between peers. They'll be more careful among peers. It should be fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Haha, I'm finally fine. The blood oath contract has been torn. Not far away, laughter could be heard. Those who had signed the blood oath contract were even more ecstatic. As the blood oath contract had been torn apart by Lu Ming, it naturally had no effect. However, when they looked at Lu Ming, fear flashed in their eyes. No one came over to thank him. They thought of Yin Feng. Since Lu Ming had offended Yin Feng would definitely take revenge in the future. If they were too close to Lu Ming, they would be implicated. Their eyes flickered and they chose to stay away from Lu Ming, returning to their respective cave abodes. These people are truly ungrateful, Qiao Yingying said hatefully. Lu Ming smiled and did not mind. This was human nature. Lu Ming had helped them just now and prevented them from being enslaved by Yin Feng. Perhaps he could save their lives in the great Emperor's secret realm. However, these people simply ignored all these. Compared to facing Yin Feng's revenge, they ignored Lu Ming's kindness and chose to stay away from him. Humans were just that realistic sometimes. Brother, thank you for your help. At this moment, the triplets walked over and one of them thanked Lu Ming. The other two cupped their fists. No need to be so polite. May I know how to address the three of you? Lu Ming smiled. Lu Ming admired the triplets' unyielding character. I'm the boss and my name is Yuan Tian. He's the second brother Yuan Di and the second brother Yuan Ren. The two of them can't speak. Yuan Tian introduced. You can't speak. Lu Ming, Qiao Yingying, Qiao Hao and the rest were stunned. It was rare to see a martial arts powerhouse who could not speak. This was because martial arts powerhouses had powerful bodies and had incredible control over their bodies. The chronic diseases of mortals were no problem for martial arts powerhouses at all. Therefore, mute was somewhat inconceivable to martial Dao powerhouses. The few of them chatted for a while more before returning to their cave abodes. The Yuan brothers needed to go back and heal their injuries. As for Lu Ming, he returned to his cave abode and continued cultivating. Now, the embryonic form of the Chaos Realm was getting closer and closer to the limit. Lu Ming believed that he would be able to cultivate to the limit before entering the Great Emperor's secret realm. That way, he would be able to break through to the Emperor realm and seize the initiative. Chapter 1404. 1404 Saint Stage expert in the vast snow mountain. Within a cave, Long Yuan Mountain was standing respectfully in front of an old man. Yuan Shan, did you really meet a heaven's favorite who got a primordial chaos token in the Divine Ruins Continent group? The old man said. Yes, Master. I wanted to report to you as soon as I came back, but Master has been in seclusion, so I waited until now to report. Long Yuan Shan said respectfully. Well, it's really good to get a mixed energy token in such a remote place. He has endless potential. Only one person in Dragon God Valley has a mixed energy token. The old man smiled warmly. Master, not only that, the bloodline that little guy awakened is the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Long Yuan Mountain said. Oh. The old man's brows rose in surprise. Master, that little guy is called Lu Ming. I've heard about him in the Divine Ruins Continent group. He's a man who values relationships. He's such a good man with a good character. Master, do you want to take him in as your disciple? Long Yuan Mountain said. There's no rush. Still depends on fate to acknowledge a master. Can't be forced. Everything is up to fate. The old man smiled. Yes, Master. Long Yuan Shan bowed. Yes, Yuan Shan. You didn't tell anyone about Lu Ming obtaining the mixed element token, did you? The old man asked. No, only my master knows about it in Dragon God Valley. Long Yuan Mountain said. Well then don't tell anyone about it yet. His cultivation level is still low. If this gets out, he'll be in trouble. The old man instructed. Long Yuan Shan naturally nodded his head. Longshan, you have to cultivate well too. Try to break through to the Saint Realm. If you don't enter the Saint Realm, you won't be able to achieve great things. The old man's tone changed. Thank you for your advice, master. I will work harder and break through to the Saint Realm. Long Yuan Shan nodded. Go. The old man waved his hand. The following days were very peaceful. Yin Feng did not come to find trouble. Lu Ming was happy to be idle and cultivated in peace. A few months passed by in a flash. The day to enter the great emperor's secret realm had arrived. After a few months of cultivation, Lu Ming's embryonic form of the chaos domain had been cultivated to its limit 2 months ago. During this period of time he had been polishing his foundation, allowing his cultivation to reach a state of perfect harmony. As for the other heaven's favorites, they had all made great progress. Here the cultivation environment was too good and one's cultivation progress was very fast. Most of the people had already stepped into the supreme level. Only a small number of them remained at the great circle of the spiritual god stage. Thump, thump, boom. On this day the summoning drum sounded again. When they walked out of the cave, Long Yuanchuan was waiting for them. Alright, the great emperor's secret realm is about to open. Your test and your opportunity have arrived. Now follow me. After saying that, Long Yuanchuan stepped into the air and left. Everyone followed. They flew out of the huge valley and came to a huge square. There were already many people waiting in the square. There were more than 1,000 people gathered together. At a glance, they were all young people and most of them had the cultivation of supreme martial artists. They are the same as you. They are the disciples recruited by the Dragon God Valley from various continents. They will also enter the great emperor's secret realm together. Long Yuanchuan said as they landed on the square. So many people? Everyone was shocked. At a glance, there were no less than 10,000 people. Furthermore, people were still coming in. These were the top talents of the continents. Dragon God Valley had recruited so many people. However, when Lu Ming thought of the map of the entire primordial realm, he felt at ease. Outside the Yuan continent, in the vast ocean, there were too many continents like the divine wilderness continent. Recruiting tens of thousands of top heaven's favorites is nothing. It's just a drop in the bucket. People kept flying over. In the end there were about 20,000 people. Buzz, buzz, and NBSP whoosh. Suddenly a large number of figures flew over from the vast snow mountain. There were a few thousand of them and they were all young men. Furthermore, they were all supreme martial artists. However, these people did not land together with Lu Ming and the rest. Instead they landed above the square. As soon as they landed, they looked at Lu Ming and the rest with all kinds of eyes. Some were curious, some were disdainful, some were cold, and some were disdainful. There were all kinds of gazes. Yin Feng. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the crowd and he saw Yin Feng. Lu Ming finally understood. The thousands of people who came out later were the local talents of Dragon God Valley. Yin Feng, I heard that a few months ago you were defeated by a country bumpkin from a savage island. He even stepped on your face 9 times. Is that true? A red-robed young man walked towards Yin Feng and asked with a cold smile. Chiku, I don't need you to care about my matters. Yin Feng said with a cold face. Don't need me to care? Yin Feng, you're really a piece of trash. You can't even defeat a country bumpkin from a savage island and got stomped on 9 times in a row. How embarrassing. Besides, it's fine if you're embarrassing yourself, but you're embarrassing the people of Dragon God Valley as well. Why don't I care? The red-robed youth Chiku mocked. On the side, the others also revealed mocking smiles. Detestable. Yin Feng gritted his teeth, and his face revealed a ferocious killing intent. It was all that Lu Ming's fault, that country bumpkin. If it wasn't for him, how would he be ridiculed by Chiku? In the past few months he had been ridiculed a lot. He could not wait to tear Lu Ming into 1,000 pieces. That bastard, I must kill him. Yin Feng roared in his heart. His gaze swept through the crowd and landed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming seemed to sense Yin Feng's gaze and looked back at him, revealing a disdainful smile. Buzz. At this moment an old man suddenly appeared in the sky above the square. Lu Ming did not know how the elder appeared. It was as if he had been standing there before. The old man had a tall and sturdy figure, and his long beard fluttered in the wind. However, he looked very ordinary, just like an ordinary person. However, he casually stood in the air and attracted everyone's attention. It was as if the old man was the entire world. This aura. Lu Ming's pupils contracted sharply. This elder's temperament gave him a very familiar feeling. He thought of the profound sky saint. The temperament of the two was very similar. A saint. Lu Ming was certain that this was a martial saint. A martial saint. This was the first time Lu Ming had seen a living martial saint. He could not help but release his spiritual sense. However, the next moment his body trembled and he quickly retracted his spiritual sense. When he used his spiritual sense to scan, he seemed to see a world appearing in front of him. A terrifying pressure was acting on his heart. If he didn't withdraw his spiritual sense quickly and the other party didn't have any hostility, his soul spirit would have been injured just now. He was too strong. Is this the power of a sage? I'm afraid that if you want to kill me, you can kill me with just a breath, right? Lu Ming sighed in his heart. Chapter 1405. 1405 Chapter 1405 Emperor Song. Above the martial emperor was the martial saint. Martial saints were also known as saints and saints. A human saint was unbelievably powerful. With a single thought he could overturn rivers and seas. He was much more powerful than a martial emperor. They were on a completely different level. Furthermore, the martial saint realm was completely different from the other realms. In the cultivation of martial arts, from the martial warrior realm to the martial emperor realm, there were 9 major realms. Each realm was divided into 9 heavens. However, a martial saint was completely different. The martial saint realm was further divided into 3 stages, which were the bright saint stage, the great saint stage, and the absolute saint stage. Each realm was divided into 4 levels: initial, upper, peak, and perfection. The span between each realm was extremely large. The 3 realms were collectively called the martial sage realm. Above it was the martial sovereign realm, also known as the great sovereign realm. It was said that the martial emperor realm was different from the martial saint realm. He just didn't know what realm the old man in front of him was at. Buzz. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. As soon as the old man appeared, Long Yuanchuan and the others flew up into the sky. There were 20 of them and they all greeted the old man. This subordinate pays his respects to Elder Hong. N. The tall and sturdy old man nodded and waved his hand. Long Yuanchuan and the others stood behind him respectfully. Then Elder Hong's gaze swept across the entire place. Everyone felt an invisible pressure pressing down on their bodies. They immediately stood up straight and looked solemn. Even those local young men who were extremely arrogant, they still stood obediently and respectfully in the eyes of Elder Hong. I believe everyone already knows our goal this time. Elder Hong said, his voice loud and clear, ringing in everyone's ears. Here I would like to emphasize a few points. First, we are entering the Great Emperor's secret realm and the Great Emperor is Emperor Tsong. Elder Hong announced. Many people were shocked. What? It's actually Emperor Tsong? I thought it was a secret realm left behind by a great emperor from a long time ago. I didn't expect it to be Emperor Tsong. There were many discussions at the scene, and the loudest were the local young men. Because Emperor Tsong's reputation was too great. Whether it was Dragon God Valley or the Tianshan sect, they were all located in the Tsong region. As the name suggested, the name of the Tsong region came from Emperor Tsong. 60,000 years ago, Emperor Tsong was the ruler of the Azure continent. He was the only great emperor of the Azure continent. However, 60,000 years ago, Emperor Tsong suddenly disappeared without a trace. It was said that Emperor Tsong had already fallen. As for how he had died, no one knew. Emperor Tsong disappeared, and the Azure continent no longer had any emperors. Now it had created a situation where heroes fought for supremacy. And this time the great emperor's secret realm was actually Emperor Tsong's. This was beyond everyone's expectations. This time you will be entering the Emperor Tsong's mystic realm. It is not only a test but also a training experience. It is also your chance. When you come out of the mystic realm, you will become official disciples of Dragon God Valley. Also, you can use the treasures you have obtained in the mystic realm. If you need them, you can keep them for yourself. The sect will not force you to hand them over. If you feel that you can't use it, you can hand over some high-grade treasures or secret techniques to the sect. The sect will definitely compensate you with ori rocks or treasures of equivalent value. Elder Hong's words made everyone's hearts burn. Dragon God Valley would not force anyone to hand over the treasures in the Great Emperor's secret realm. It was a voluntary matter. If they were willing to hand over the treasures, they would do so. The sect would compensate them accordingly. This condition was too generous and shocking. What he got was his own. Lu Ming was secretly impressed. This was also one of the strategies of the Dragon God Valley. In this way, everyone would try their best to find the treasure because what they obtained would be their own. If the Dragon God Valley sect had given the order to hand over all the treasures they had obtained, no one would risk their lives to search for treasures. At most, they would find a place to hide and pass the assessment when they came out. In any case, these young men would be disciples of Dragon God Valley in the future. The more fortuitous encounters they had, the more Dragon God Valley would benefit in the future. The second point. Elder Hong's voice rang out again and the entire place fell silent. Secondly, this time the 13 top sects of the Azure continent will send a large number of disciples in. The competition will be intense. Therefore, the disciples of Dragon God Valley must unite against the outsiders. Do you understand? Yes, Elder. Everyone responded loudly. All right, then follow me. Elder Hong waved his hand and a battleship appeared in the sky. The moment it appeared, it grew rapidly, becoming 100 miles long. Everyone flew onto the warship. Although there were more than 20,000 people, it was still very spacious on the 100-mile-long warship. Let's go, let's go. Elder Hong shouted, and the warship broke through the sky and disappeared into the horizon. In the Yuan continent, due to the stability of the space, it was much more difficult to use a transfer array. It was not that there was no transfer array, but the price to use it was extremely high. Therefore, they usually used external objects such as warships of various sizes and puppets to travel. Elder Hong's warship was a large one. The battleship tore through the air at an astonishing speed. Furthermore, it only needed to be activated by rough stones to keep flying without any need to rest. A few days later, the warship stopped above a barbaric mountain range. Everyone got out of the warship and stood in the air. Elder Hong waved his hand and kept the battleship. The crowd looked around and found that there was someone else besides Dragon God Valley. People from the other sects had already arrived. It's the Heaven God sect. And the Jiuxiao Sword sect. There's also the Heaven Seat King. The local youths could tell with a single glance which force these people belonged to. Of the 13 top powers of the Azure continent, 5 or 6 had already arrived. The Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the east. The Xianxia sect was located in the east. It was densely packed with tens of thousands of people. The number was double that of the Dragon God Valley. The Dragon God Valley had a higher requirement for bloodline. One needed to awaken the bloodline of the true dragon or the flood dragon. However, the cultivation of the Xianxia sect was more complex, so many bloodlines could join. Fortunately, Lu Ming's eyesight was very good. He saw a few familiar faces among the tens of thousands of people in the deity sect. Eden Ziwuji Bingkong and Ji Hongchen. However, she didn't see Xian Yanjuan. Lu Ming looked at the people of the Heavenly God sect. Many people from the Heavenly God sect were also looking in their direction. This time, the Holy Maiden Yanjuan told us that she has enemies in Dragon God Valley and the Tianyu demonic sect. She asked us to help her deal with them. In the Tianxia sect, a young man with a flame mark between his eyebrows said, "Of course, since the Holy Maiden has spoken, those few ants will naturally be dealt with." Another young man sneered. At the mention of the Holy Maiden, their eyes could not help but reveal adoration and deep respect. Xian Yanjuan, the Holy Virgin of the Tianxia sect, was definitely a legendary figure. He was just from a wild island. After entering the deity sect, he was chosen by the great elder of the deity sect and was accepted as a personal disciple. Furthermore, he revealed his outstanding talent, which shocked the entire deity sect. Chapter 1406. 1406. Inside the tomb. Later on, Xian Yanjuan was conferred the title of Saintess by the Tianxia sect, and his status was revered. Since her cultivation had already broken through to the martial royal realm, she could not enter the great emperor's secret realm. Hence, she had asked a few heaven's favorites from the Xianxia sect to enter the great emperor's secret realm and help her deal with a few strong enemies. How could they refuse to serve the holy maiden? Bing Kong, Eden, Ziwuji, you all came from the same continent as the saintess. Who was the person the saintess asked to kill? The young man with the flame mark on his forehead looked at Bing Kong, Eden, Ziwuji, and Ji Hongchen. The expressions of the four people changed slightly. Eden and Ji Hongchen both remained silent. Senior brother Lu, it's that one. Bing Kong pointed at Lu Ming's position. Oh, it's that kid. The young man with the flame mark between his brows and some other young men all looked at Lu Ming. Ji Hongchen's face revealed a trace of worry. This kid is mine. The young man with the flame mark on his forehead said casually. And that might not be the case. It's not that easy to win the saintess' favor. That kid can be killed at any time. He'll all depend on our luck. Whoever meets him in the great emperor's secret realm is lucky. The other young man sneered. Let's see who's lucky. The young man with the flame mark on his forehead snorted. In the crowd of Dragon God Valley, Lu Ming naturally saw the scene where Bing Kong pointed at him. However, Lu Ming did not care. It was fine if these people did not provoke him. If they were courting death, he did not mind sending them on their way. Buzz. In the distance, another large sect had arrived. As time passed, more and more powerful forces and sects arrived. The number of people at the scene grew. A few hours later, a total of 13 sects and powers arrived. These 13 sects were the 13 most powerful forces in the Azure continent. Each force had more than 20,000 people. In total, they had more than 300,000 people. In other words, there would be more than 300,000 people entering the Great Emperor's secret realm this time. It was a huge number. These people were all top heaven's favorites from the various continents. Every force had a saint realm expert leading them. The 13 saints stood in the air and waited silently. Soon night fell and a moon appeared in the sky. Blood moon. This moon was actually blood red. A ray of blood red moonlight scattered from the blood moon. Buzz. At this moment, a wave-like ripple appeared in the sky. At this moment, the eyes of the 13 saints lit up, and they released a shocking aura. Buzz. Buzz, and NBSP whoosh. The 13 saints stepped forward and appeared where the ripples were. Hey. We are now opening the entrance to the great emperor's secret realm. One of the sages said. The 13 saints' auras were so powerful that it was as if 13 worlds had appeared there. At the same time, the 13 of them made their moves. 13 rainbow lights of different colors flew forward and gathered together. Open! The 13 saints shouted. Boom! Boom! A muffled boom resounded between heaven and earth. The void cracked open and a huge object appeared. At first it was blurry, but slowly it became clearer and clearer. That's... Lu Ming's pupils constricted. What appeared in the void was actually a tomb, a huge tomb. It was incomparably huge, even bigger than a mountain range, and its energy was 1,000,000 feet high. Countless people were shocked. Was this the great emperor's secret realm, or was this the great emperor's tomb? The great emperor's secret realm was the great emperor's tomb? Boom. With a final boom, the huge tomb completely appeared in the sky. It was as high as the sky. Lu Ming had never seen such a majestic and huge grave. Boom. 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 When the tomb appeared, the huge gravestone in front of it moved. As he slowly moved towards the first rank, some of the more timid people took a deep breath and couldn't help but take a few steps back. The gravestone moved and finally opened completely, revealing the pitch-black darkness inside. Could this be the entrance to the great emperor's secret realm? Someone said, his voice trembling. If it was a normal tomb, no one would be afraid, but this involved a great emperor, so it was a little creepy. That's right. This is the entrance. Hurry up and enter. If you're too late, the gravestone will close. One of the sages said. It really was. Some people's hearts tightened. Isn't it just a tomb? What a cowards. Someone laughed and flew over first. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. Then more people flew in. Let's go. More than 20,000 people from Dragon God Valley flew toward the entrance of the tomb in unison. Lu Ming followed the crowd and flew in. The entrance to the tomb was huge and it could accommodate many people at the same time. Soon everyone flew into the tomb. Boom. 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 After everyone flew into the tomb, the gravestone rumbled and automatically closed. It was pitch black inside the tomb. One couldn't even see one's fingers. Even if everyone's cultivation was high, they could still see in the night. But here they couldn't see anything at all, and they were plunged into darkness. The next moment someone condensed a flame, and only then did the tomb have a trace of dim light. A ball of flame appeared in Lu Ming's hand as well. He could barely see the area within a radius of tens of meters. "Brother Lu." Qiu Yingying's voice was heard as she walked towards Lu Ming. Beside Qiu Yingying, Qiu Hao was also there. "Young lady Qiu, brother Qiu." Lu Ming greeted the two people. "Heaven Seat King's people, gather here. People of the Heavenly God sect, gather here. People of Dragon God Valley, come here." In the darkness, a series of voices sounded as the disciples of the 13 forces began to gather. In such an environment, they would only feel safe when they gathered together. Lu Ming and the other two also headed in the direction of Dragon God Valley. There seemed to be many forks in the road. Qiu Yingying's eyes swept around. At this time, many people condensed flames, holy light, and the like. Countless bright lights, like stars in the night sky, illuminated this space. They found that they were now in a huge stone room. This stone room was extremely huge and was more than enough to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. Around the stone room there were many huge passages. There were no markings at the entrance of the passage, so no one knew where these passages led to. Heaven Seat King's disciples were going this way. Disciples of the Heavenly God sect over here. In the end, the 13 forces each chose a passage. The people of Dragon God Valley chose the passage on the left and moved forward carefully. The passageway was wide and spacious. It was not crowded at all even when tens of thousands of people walked together. However, everyone was very careful. In this strange environment, no one dared to be careless. Chapter 1407. 1407 Chapter 1407 Narrow escape. Soon, everyone had traveled more than 100 miles. However, this passageway seemed to have no end. It was shockingly long and they had yet to reach the end. The walls here seemed to be covered with inscriptions. Qiu Yingying said softly. Lu Ming scanned the room. Indeed, the walls here were covered with inscriptions. These inscriptions had a strange structure and were combined in a very strange way. Looked very strange. Furthermore, the inscriptions didn't seem to have any abnormalities at all. It was as if too much time had passed and they had lost their spirituality. "Brother Lu, be careful." Suddenly Qiu Yingying exclaimed. At this moment Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, he moved a few meters to the side. Buzz. A wisp of strange black thorn pierced the place where Lu Ming had been standing just now. Whoosh, whoosh. Following that, more black stingers were aimed at Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao. "Be careful." Lu Ming's body flashed and dodged the black spikes. Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao also dodged the attacks, but they seemed to be in a sorry state. "Despicable." Tin Feng. Qiu Yingying glared at the front. Lu Ming naturally saw it too. In front of him, Yin Feng stood under the wall with his palm pressed against the wall. There was a fluorescent flash. The black thorn just now was shot out from the wall that Yin Feng's palm was pressed against. Yin Feng had used a special method to activate the inscriptions on the wall to attack them. "Hee hee, you guys are lucky." Yin Feng sneered. His figure flashed and disappeared into the darkness. "Despicable. Before the Sage Realm Elder came in, he warned us to unite, but Yin Feng tried to kill us in secret." Qiu Yingying gritted her teeth. "Despicable." Qiu Hao also said hatefully. It had been very dangerous just now. They felt that those strange black thorns were extremely terrifying. If they had been stabbed, they would have been in grave danger. A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He did not say much. After that, the group became more careful and continued forward. After traveling for about 100 miles, there was gradually light in front and it was no longer pitch black. The pressure in everyone's heart finally eased a little. After walking for a while, everyone stopped. That was because a deep abyss had appeared in front of them. The abyss blocked the way. On the abyss, there were 10 bridges that led to the other side. However, in front of the abyss, there was a stone tablet with 4 words written on it. 9 deaths and 1 life. 10 bridges corresponded to 9 deaths and 1 life. What did that mean? Did this mean that out of the 10 bridges, 9 were dead ends and 1 was a way out? But how was he going to get through this? Which way was the way out? "What do we do?" Someone said. "Isn't this simple? Find 10 people and we'll know once we try." A cold voice rang out from the crowd. It was Yin Feng. Everyone was shocked. Finding 10 people to try this method was very simple, but 9 of them would die. Those who tried it would only have a slim chance of survival. Who would be willing to try? Going there would mean death. Isn't that simple? You get up there. Yin Feng pointed at 10 people. Among them were Lu Ming, Qiu Yingying, Qiu Hao and the Ruan triplets. Why should I go up and try? Impossible, you can go if you want to. One of the people who was called out shouted. What are you shouting for? Lowly ants from a savage island, our dragon god valley crossed an endless distance to summon you here and let you enter the great emperor's secret realm, giving you the chance to obtain supreme opportunities. Are you not going to do anything? Now it's time for you to contribute. Yin Feng coldly laughed. That's right. Hurry up and go up. With your strength, this is all you can do. Otherwise, what are you doing here? Are you just freeloading? Another young man beside Yin Feng sneered. No, I'm not going. The young man shouted and shook his head in refusal. You're looking for death. Yin Feng's eyes turned cold. His figure suddenly appeared beside the young man and he threw a punch. Bang! The young man's body was sent flying far away. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and his aura was extremely weak. No, I'll kill you now. Yin Feng's eyes were as cold as lightning as he swept his gaze over Lu Ming and the rest. Idiot! Lu Ming pursed his lips. Lu Ming did not lower his voice and his voice could be heard from afar. What did you just say? Yin Feng glared at Lu Ming. Not only are they stupid but they also have bad ears. Lu Ming cast a disdainful glance at Yin Feng. Kid, it's time for you to contribute to Dragon God Valley. Do you want to make so many people wait for you? If you let the other sex get the first move, can you bear the responsibility? Yin Feng shouted. The other local young men sneered as they watched. The other young men from the overseas continent looked on coldly. To them it was the best for Lu Ming to go up. At least they did not have to take the risk. If Lu Ming did not go, what if Yin Feng found them? Since you want to contribute so much to Dragon God Valley, why don't you do it yourself? Wouldn't it be more efficient? Lu Ming said calmly. Who do you think you are? Can your life be compared to mine? Yin Feng shouted coldly. Yin Feng, why are you wasting time with him? If you're not going up, just throw him up. The young man who had spoken to Yin Feng earlier said coldly. At the same time he strode toward Lu Ming. Brat, I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Do you want to go on your own or do you want me to throw you over? The young man was dressed in a purple robe. He had a cold expression on his face as he tried to grab Lu Ming. Throw it over, I think that's a good idea. Lu Ming sneered. The early stage of the chaos realm enveloped his body and he threw a punch at the purple-robed young man. Boom. The purple-robed young man's body trembled violently and blood spurted out of his mouth. Just as he was about to be sent flying by Lu Ming took a step forward and slapped the purple-robed young man across the face. Pop. The crisp sound of a slap was heard, and the purple-robed young man's body fell heavily to the ground. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. It was unknown what the ground was made of, but it was unbelievably hard and indestructible. The purple-robed young man lay on the ground, wailing like a dead dog. Brat, you're bold, impudent. How dare you hurt people? Ants from the wilderness. You're courting death. Lu Ming had beaten the purple-robed young man half to death with one move, shocking everyone. Then the dozen local young men shouted one by one, their bodies emitting cold killing intent. Their figures flashed and they surrounded Lu Ming. In their eyes, a mere ant from a desolate island dared to attack them. He was really courting death. It seems that we have enough people to try 10 bridges. Lu Ming sneered. What did you just say? Big words, Dai. One of the young men shouted and charged at Lu Ming. The next moment, bang! Lu Ming's punch landed on his dantian. He let out a shrill scream and lay on the ground, unable to move. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ah, ah, ah. Following that, Lu Ming cast the wind element technique and his body flashed. The scene was filled with screams. Then the dozen or so young men who wanted to besiege Lu Ming all lay on the ground, wailing in pain. Chapter 1408. 1408 Chapter 1408 Throw them all over at the scene. Everyone was stunned. Lu Ming had very strong combat abilities. Those young men were the local elites of Dragon God Valley. Each of them had cultivated a domain-level martial arts technique. Their combat strength was much stronger than those of the overseas continent. However, these people were unable to fight back at all in the hands of Lu Ming. He crushed them like dried weeds. Most of the local young people were also dumbfounded. A small number of people had serious expressions. Yin Feng. After taking care of more than 10 people, Lu Ming looked at Yin Feng. Buzz. Lu Ming moved and strode toward Yin Feng. Enough. A cold shout rang out. A young man with a cold expression appeared beside Yin Feng and looked at Lu Ming coldly. Enough. Who do you think you are? Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. The other party's eyes darkened. You've dealt such a heavy blow to your fellow sect members. I don't think there's a need for you to stay in Dragon God Valley. Now you have no share of this secret realm. Go back. Get lost. Lu Ming's answer was even simpler this time. It was only one word. You're courting death. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some strength. I'll let you know what true strength is. The other party spoke coldly and a dragon's roar sounded from his body. Roar. Then the young man exhaled. His voice was like a dragon's roar. He bent his fingers like claws and clawed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt as if he had seen a real dragon that was trying to grab him. Innate spirit body. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. As soon as this young man attacked, Lu Ming could sense that this person was the same as Yin Feng. He also had an innate spirit body. Moreover, it was a special kind of dragon body. Boom. When the young man made his move, a terrifying force was emitted from Lu Ming's back. It was Yin Feng. He actually took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack on Lu Ming. You're looking for death. He did not panic at all in the face of the attacks. With a sway of his body, he dodged the claw in front of him and twisted his body to strike at Yin Feng. Yin Feng's expression changed. He did not expect Lu Ming to react so quickly. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Bang! Lu Ming's palm landed on his fist, causing him to tremble and stagger backward. Lu Ming activated the embryonic form of the chaos domain and cast the prison-suppressing heavenly art, attacking Yin Feng like a storm. Let's attack together and kill this man. This man is lawless. Yin Feng roared. However, other than the young man from before, the others did not make a move. In Dragon God Valley, the competition was very fierce. Many local disciples were competitors with Yin Feng, and they were happy to see Yin Feng suffer. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming's fist force was like a mountain as he threw a few consecutive punches. Yin Feng barely managed to block a few moves. When Lu Ming's fist landed on his stomach, Yin Feng's eyes almost popped out as he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Pop. Lu Ming slapped Yin Feng's face. The terrifying force almost blew Yin Feng's head apart. His head rumbled and he fell to the ground. Why would I? The pupils of the young man who had attacked Lu Ming earlier contracted rapidly. Yin Feng's combat strength was similar to his, but he was defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves. This shocked him and he retreated rapidly. Now if you want to retreat, can you? Lu Ming said coldly. He activated the wind element technique and rushed towards the other party. The result was without a doubt. After a few moves, the other party ended up like Yin Feng. He was beaten into a dead dog and fell to the ground. Now someone can scout the way. Lu Ming said softly. He picked up Yin Feng and the young man and walked towards the edge of the abyss. Little brat, what do you want to do? The elder warned us to stay united. You injured a fellow disciple and now you're killing one of us. You're disobeying the elder's orders. I'll report this to the sect when we get out. Yin Feng shouted. He was clearly the one who wanted to deal with Lu Ming. Previously, he had activated the inscription in the passage to kill Lu Ming. Later on, he wanted Lu Ming to be the pathfinder, but he was the one who started everything. Now he was slandering Lu Ming for killing his fellow disciples. Lu Ming could not be bothered to talk nonsense with him. He grabbed the two of them and walked to the side of the abyss. Don't, I'm warning you. Yin Feng and the other young man were so frightened that they almost peed their pants. They roared madly and struggled with all their might. However, Lu Ming had already used his essential core to seal their cultivation. No matter how they struggled, it was of no use. Then Lu Ming swung his arm and threw the two people out. They each flew towards a bridge. Didn't the two of them want someone to test the waters? Then let the two of them probe. The two of them shrieked madly in the air. One of them was exhausted and the other was miserable. It was worse than killing pigs. Buzz. Buzz. The two of them flew along the bridge and landed on the other side. After falling, the two of them were still screaming. "You're fine." Everyone was stunned. The two of them were actually fine. Wasn't it a narrow escape? Logically speaking, there should only be one way out. How could there be two? Let's try again. Lu Ming moved and grabbed a few of the young men he had just knocked down. While they were shouting, he threw them over the other bridges. The few of them flew over one by one and nothing happened. Following that, Lu Ming tried crossing the 10 bridges one by one and nothing happened. So he was just cursing to scare people. He's completely fine. Let's go. The young man from Dragon God Valley cursed as he rushed along the bridge. Sure enough, nothing happened. These 10 bridges were purely scary. Lu Ming touched his nose. Why did this look like a prank? Damn it, damn it. Yin Feng and the young man with the innate spirit body roared in their hearts. They were furious. This time it was really embarrassing. Just now, when the two of them were faced with the threat of death, they had cried out in pain. They were in such a sorry state that they would not be able to raise their heads in the future. They blamed Lu Ming for everything. Seeing that Lu Ming had stepped onto the bridge, the two of them were shocked. They hurriedly rushed toward the passage in front and disappeared without a trace. "These guys are lucky," Lu Ming muttered. He was indeed lucky to not die even after this. Lu Ming, Qiao Ying and the rest crossed the bridge and continued to move forward. This time, not long after they walked, they saw a large door. They walked out of the door and came to a huge platform. People from other forces. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the area and realized that the platform was huge and long. There were also many doors on both sides of Lu Ming and the others. Disciples from other forces had appeared. It turned out that there were many passages in the tomb that led to this place. In front of the platform there was a huge bubble-like object that was floating. In the bubbles, the shadows of mountains and rivers could be seen. There was actually a world inside. Is that the true secret realm of the Great Emperor? It must be. This is a plane. It's normal for a Great Emperor's secret realm to be in a plane. Let's go, charge in. Some people flew up and rushed toward the bubble. The earlier he entered, the earlier he could break through to the martial royal realm and take the initiative. Chapter 1409. 1409. If she comes, he'll step on her too. As soon as those people got close to the bubble, their bodies rapidly shrank. When they got close to the bubble, they became as small as dust and then disappeared into the bubble. Fine. Many people saw that it was fine to enter, so even more people rushed towards the bubble. Buzz. Buzz. And NBSP whoosh. A dense crowd of figures charged into the bubble and then disappeared inside. Let's go too, Lu Ming said. Together with Qiao Ying and the rest, they flew toward the bubble. As soon as they flew towards the bubble, a strong force of attraction was produced on the bubble, pulling them in. The closer they got to the bubble, they felt that the bubble was getting bigger. Then their figures also entered the bubble and disappeared. On the platform, Yin Feng and a few other people looked at Lu Ming's disappearing figure. Cold killing intent burst out from their bodies. Just you wait, it'll definitely kill this person. The young man with the innate spirit body roared in anger. Although Lu Ming's combat strength is strong now, when we reach the Great Emperor secret realm, we'll break through to the martial royal realm and our combat strength will increase greatly. Moreover, our innate spiritual bodies will also undergo a transformation. By then we'll let him die without a burial place. Yin Feng gritted his teeth and said, "That's right. What's the use of having a supreme-level battle prowess? When he breaks through to the Emperor realm, he'll make sure he dies an ugly death." The first person gritted his teeth and said, their cultivation had reached the limit of the Supreme Being realm, and they could start to break through to the martial royal realm at any time. Furthermore, their identities were not ordinary. They had powerful experts backing them. They had long been prepared to break through to the martial emperor realm. They were 100% confident that they could break through to the Dao Emperor realm. Moreover, when an innate spirit body broke through to the Emperor level, it would also transform and reach the level of an inferior Earth spirit body. Its combat strength would increase greatly and be much stronger than ordinary spirit bodies. At that time they had full confidence that they would make Lu Ming die an ugly death. Then the few of them also flew towards the bubble and disappeared. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the bubble, he felt the world spinning. The next moment he was high up in the sky. He quickly circulated his true essence to stabilize his body. Buzz. 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 Waves of ripples appeared in the sky. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the area and realized that there were many people in the void. There were more than 100 people in his line of sight, but he did not see Qiu Yingying and the others. It seemed that after entering this secret realm they would appear at random. In the void, more than 100 people sized each other up. There were people from all 13 sects and powers among the 100 people. It's that kid from Dragon God Valley. One of them looked at Lu Ming and his eyes lit up. This person was the young man with the flame mark between his eyebrows from the Tianxian sect. His name was Lu Yan. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yan were so lucky. A figure appeared beside Lu Yan. It was Bing Kong. Ah, my luck is indeed good. Those guys still want to compete with me. After I kill this person, the saint will definitely have a whole new level of respect for me. Lu Yan was overjoyed. He took a step forward and walked toward Lu Ming. Bing Kong followed. Naturally, Lu Ming had also noticed Bing Kong and Lu Yan. He stood quietly in the void, his expression calm. Boy, you must be Lu Ming. You're unlucky to have met me. Lu Yan sneered, his body exuding an ice-cold killing intent. You want to kill me? Is it because of him? Lu Ming said, his eyes fixed on the ice. Lu Ming guessed that Bing Kong was trying to kill him. Is this why you're so confident? How lamentable. Lu Ming shook his head and an aura emanated from his body. The aura of a supreme martial artist. Bing Kong's expression changed. He did not expect Lu Ming's cultivation to have reached the supreme being level. It seems that you have made great progress in the few months you have been in the Yuan continent. Bing Kong said. He believed that Lu Ming had broken through to the supreme being realm in the few months that he had been in the Yuan continent. Lu Ming smiled and could not be bothered to explain. But even if we're both supreme martial artists, you're still no match for me. Ice Jade technique kill. The ice suddenly moved. He became one with the sword. A terrifying sword mark made of ice jade flew towards Lu Ming with shocking power. So he cultivated a domain martial technique. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that Bing Kong had cast a domain martial art technique. No wonder Bing Kong was so confident. Boom. Lu Ming threw a punch at the icy air. Wherever Lu Ming's fist force passed, the sword chi in the icy air instantly collapsed. The fist force didn't stop and continued to crush the ice. Chapter 1410. 1410 Innate Flame Spirit Body. Bing Kong felt a force that could topple mountains and overturn the seas surging towards him. This force was not something he could resist at all. He turned pale with fright. How could Lu Ming be so powerful? Boom. The terrifying power slammed into his body. He screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew far away and hit a mountain peak in the distance. How is that possible? He widened his eyes and glared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had been staying in the Divine Ruins Continent Group. It was impossible for the Divine Ruins Continent Group to have domain martial arts techniques. How could Lu Ming's combat strength be so powerful? Originally he was full of confidence. He had come to the Yuan continent 2 years earlier than Lu Ming, and his cultivation had greatly increased. He had reached the limit of the refined state. Moreover, he was good at socializing and had gotten to know Lu Yan and the others. He had obtained a domain martial art technique that was suitable for him. After successfully cultivating it, his combat power had increased greatly and had already far surpassed Eden and Ziwuji. Initially he had wanted to suppress Lu Ming after meeting him this time to take revenge for what happened back then. However, after he met Lu Ming, everything was beyond his expectations. Not only had Lu Ming's cultivation reached the supreme being level, but his combat strength was also so powerful that he completely crushed him. He had severely injured him with one move. This is your combat power, this is what you rely on. Trash will always be trash. Even if you came to the Yuanlu 2 years earlier, you still can't withstand a single blow. Lu Ming berated coldly. You? Bing Kong was so furious that he spat out another mouthful of blood. You do have some combat power. However, with this bit of combat power, you dare to be so arrogant in front of my Tianxian sect's disciples. I think you found the wrong person. A cold voice was heard and a scorching aura enveloped Lu Ming. Flowing flame appeared in front of Lu Ming. A golden flame leaped from his body, and a terrifying temperature spread towards Lu Ming. What a high temperature! This person also has an innate spirit body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The flames on Lu Yan's body were not condensed through intent or domain, but directly emitted from his body. Only a spirit body could directly emit flames and have an astonishing temperature. In the surroundings there were originally some onlookers, but at this time they couldn't help but retreat. A few of them were disciples of the Dragon God Valley, but they all retreated coldly and had no intention of attacking. Lu Yan's fire spirit body is extremely powerful. That kid is dead for sure. Ordinary people can only be killed in seconds when they encounter an innate spirit body. A few people spoke, gloating. Nonsense, just make your move. I don't have time to waste on you. Lu Ming berated. Since you're in a hurry to reincarnate, I'll fulfill your wish. Fire God slash. Lu Yan roared. His palm was like a blade as he slashed it down at Lu Ming. The flames condensed and formed a flaming saber, slashing toward Lu Ming's head. It was like the war blade of the fire god with terrifying power. The embryonic form of the chaos domain surrounded his body and Lu Ming threw a punch. Boom. The prison-suppressing steel appeared in the void, making Lu Ming's punch indestructible. It collided with the flaming saber. Shockwaves spread out and the air shook. The flaming saber collapsed. As for Lu Yan, he was also forced to retreat by the backlash. This is your strength? Lu Ming said indifferently, revealing a hint of mockery. Lu Yan's expression darkened. Lu Ming's combat strength had exceeded his expectations. Fire God technique 8 desolations. Lu Yan let out a long roar, and his entire body seemed to have transformed into a fire god. He was over 1,000 meters tall, and with a single slash of his saber he could annihilate everything. Boom. Lu Ming rushed up. There was no shocking phenomenon. He only threw a punch. It was a simple punch, but its power was enough to suppress mountains and rivers. Boom. The fist force and the saber clashed for the second time. Thump. The sky and earth rumbled as endless flames spread out in all directions. The flaming saber was once again shattered. Then Lu Ming stepped in the air and threw a punch. A terrifying fist force crossed the void and hit the 1,000-meter-tall fire god. Boom. A huge hole was pierced through Vulcan's huge body. The flames that filled the sky disappeared, and Lu Yan frantically retreated. A large hole had appeared in his chest and it was bright from the front and back. However, he was fine. It was as if his entire body was made of flames. At this moment the flames were wriggling in the big hole and the big hole was quickly repairing itself. I have a fire spiritual body, you can't hurt me. Lu Yan's furious voice rang out. A fire spirit body is indeed amazing, Lu Ming said. After breaking through to the martial emperor realm, the spirit body was condensed from the bloodline, so it naturally had some characteristics of the bloodline. For example, natural type bloodlines, fire, ice, water, lightning, and so on. Before reaching the emperor realm, it was already difficult to destroy these bloodlines. For example, flames could be destroyed but the body could reform. Of course, that was when he was performing the bloodline fusion. However, after condensing a spirit body, it was even more amazing. For example, the spiritual body of fire made one's entire body seem to be made of flames. Even if one's entire body was destroyed, it could reform and greatly increase one's vitality. However, there was a limit to everything. If he encountered someone with a high cultivation level, he could directly use his powerful strength to obliterate the spirit body. Is that so? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a cold smile. He continued to step forward and charged toward Lu Yan. Flame cage. Lu Yan roared, his entire body turning into flames. The flames that filled the sky formed a huge cage that enveloped Lu Ming. He wanted to use the power of the flames to refine Lu Ming. Chaos. Lu Ming's palm was filled with chaotic light. The embryonic form of the chaos domain was like a chaotic ball that wrapped around Lu Ming's fist. Boom. Lu Ming threw a punch at the fire cage. This time the fire cage collapsed and turned into flames. At the same time, the flames that filled the sky flew into the distance and began to gather. Lu Yan's body reappeared, but this time his face was unusually pale and blood was flowing out of his mouth. You can extinguish my flames. Lu Yan roared in fear. Lu Ming's punch just now had started to obliterate his spirit body, causing him to be seriously injured. If a few more punches came, he would probably die. What flame spirit body? Trash. Lu Ming said coldly. He stepped into the air and headed toward Lu Yan. His primal chaos domain was formed by the emperors of countless domains. It was not uncommon for him to be able to wear down the spiritual body of fire. Let's go. Lu Yan didn't dare to stay any longer and turned to run. Boom. A fist force filled with chaotic light shot toward him. Lu Yan's body was pierced through by the fist force, leaving a hole in it. This time, no matter how he tried to use the flames to recover, the hole could not be healed in a short time. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, but he didn't dare to stop. He turned into a streak of fire and fled. Boom. Lu Ming threw another punch across the air. The fist radiance destroyed Lu Yan's body, turning him into balls of flames that flew into the distance and disappeared. Chapter 1411. 1411 The Martial Emperor's Great Tribulation. A natural-type spirit body was indeed wonderful. Its vitality was much stronger than others. If it were anyone else, they would have been destroyed in body and spirit after a few punches from Lu Ming. However, Lu Yan was only seriously injured, but he was able to escape. What powerful battle strength! The surrounding people all took in a cold breath. Lu Yan had an innate flame spiritual body. Without a doubt, he was a peerless genius and had cultivated a domain martial technique. A paragon like him could kill other paragons of the same level as if he was chopping melons and vegetables. However, he was completely crushed by Lu Ming. Let's go and find a place to break through to the martial emperor realm, Zhou Xian said. Being strong now doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be strong after breaking through to the martial emperor realm. Then, in a flash, these people left the place one after another to find a place to break through to the martial emperor realm. The heaven-earth yuan qi here was unbelievably dense. It was much denser than the sects outside. It was indeed worthy of being the secret realm of a great emperor, the cave residence of a great emperor. After Lu Yan escaped, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of Bing Kong. Lu Ming, please spare me. Bing Kong was extremely shocked. When he saw Lu Ming's arrival, he immediately screamed in fear. Whoosh! Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath on him. With a flick of his finger, a ray of spear radiance flew out and nailed the ice space to death. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a violent boom sounded in the distance. Bolts of lightning crossed thousands of miles as if they were going to tear the world apart. Lu Ming looked into the distance and saw dark clouds gathering in the distance. A figure was resisting the lightning under the dark clouds. Someone's already trying to break through to the Emperor realm so quickly. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. It was obvious that someone was trying to break through to the martial Emperor realm and was going through the Emperor's Great Tribulation. Usually no one would dare to disturb a tribulation. Otherwise they would be implicated as well. Therefore, when ordinary people transcended tribulations, they had no scruples. Others did not dare to disturb them and instead had to leave far away. Boom, boom, boom. Dark clouds gathered and thousands of lightning cauldrons descended from the sky, bombarding the figure and drowning him. The great calamity of an emperor was extremely terrifying. That figure faced the sky and howled, resisting the heavenly tribulation. Lu Ming looked around for a while and left the place. He also needed to find a place to cultivate in peace and start to break through to the martial royal realm. Boom, boom, boom. He had not flown far when another loud noise sounded in front of him. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts scattered. Another person was undergoing tribulation and charging towards the Emperor realm. Boom, boom. Following that, Lu Ming heard the sound of thunder exploding in many directions. They were both undergoing tribulations and trying to break through to the Emperor realm. This time hundreds of thousands of people had entered, many of whom had reached the limit of the Jizuan realm. This was especially true for the local young men. They were all suppressing their cultivation. Otherwise, they would have broken through to the Emperor realm a long time ago. They had suppressed their cultivation in order to enter the Great Emperor Secret Realm. Now that they had entered the Great Emperor Secret Realm, they no longer needed to suppress their cultivation and began to break through to the Martial Royal Realm. Once they entered the Martial Royal Realm, they would have the upper hand. Let's go. Lu Ming turned into a beam of light and left the area. After flying for more than 2 hours, Lu Ming arrived at a desolate mountain. He dug out a cave in one of the mountains and flew in. He blocked the cave and sat down cross-legged to begin cultivating. First of all, Lu Ming had to adjust his state to the extreme and look for an opportunity to start condensing his spirit body and break through to the realm. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Lu Ming was like a rock, sitting there cross-legged, motionless. The aura on his body became more and more condensed and rounded. However, Lu Ming could not find the opportunity to break through. According to the chaos scripture, every breakthrough in the cultivation of the chaos will is 10 times, 100 times more difficult than others. There's no rush. Take it slow. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. His initially anxious heart slowly calmed down and he entered an ethereal state. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days had passed. Suddenly Lu Ming opened his eyes. It's done. Lu Ming's face showed a smile. He immediately activated the Dragon God Combat Body Technique of the extraordinary chapter of the True War Dragon Technique. The 9 dragon bloodlines emerged and wrapped around Lu Ming's body. A layer of blood-red light emanated from the 9 dragon bloodline and seeped into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming wanted to condense the bloodline of the 9 dragons into his body and merge it with his physical body to cultivate the Dragon God Combat Body. He activated the Dragon God Combat Body and the power of the 9 dragons' bloodline continuously fused into Lu Ming's body. The stronger one's bloodline was, the harder it was to refine it. Furthermore, there was still a certain level of danger. At this stage of bloodline cultivation, the power was already very strong, and it was very easy to burst the body. This was also a step that many people found difficult to take. Fortunately, Lu Ming had long cultivated the pure spirit body and had cultivated it to 100% completion. With the pure spirit body as the foundation, this step was not difficult for Lu Ming. The 9 dragon bloodline constantly turned into a bloody light and integrated into Lu Ming's body at an extremely fast speed. In less than an hour, the 9 dragon bloodline had completely faded. Then with a bang, the 9 dragon bloodline collapsed and turned into a ball of bloody light, drilling into Lu Ming's body. The 9 streams of dragon energy in the 9 dragon bloodline naturally fused into Lu Ming's body along with the 9 dragon bloodline and became a part of his strength. At this moment, Lu Ming's body was emitting a dragon's roar. However, he had yet to successfully cultivate the Dragon God Combat Body. He still needed to be tempered by the heavenly tribulation. Only through the tempering of the heavenly tribulation could he be considered to have truly succeeded in his cultivation. Buzz. Lu Ming rushed out of the cave, releasing his aura. Come on. Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he stared at the sky. And NBSP hoo. In the sky, dark clouds suddenly appeared. These dark clouds seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Zila. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the dark clouds. Countless bolts of lightning slithered in the dark clouds like silver snakes. A powerful pressure spread down, filling the world with an oppressive aura. It made people feel as if a great disaster was coming. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, more and more dark clouds gathered, covering an area of 100 miles. Such a wide range. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Previously, Lu Ming had seen more than 10 people crossing the tribulation. Their emperor's great tribulation was covered in dark clouds and usually spanned about 10 miles. The larger ones were only about 20 miles. However, the area covered by Lu Ming's major tribulation was 100 miles and it was still growing. Then what's going on? Someone has become an emperor and is about to undergo tribulation, but what's with these tribulation clouds? Is this big? It's actually more than 100 miles away. Who's going through the tribulation? Could it be an innate spirit body? The aura of Lu Ming's tribulation cloud was too shocking. It covered an area of more than 100 miles, but the pressure spread out to 100,000 miles away. Many people felt it and flew over in shock. Maybe it's really an innate spirit body, but why is it still growing? Even the tribulation clouds of an innate spirit body aren't this terrifying, right? Some people stood in the distance and watched. Chapter 1412. 1412 Chapter 1412 Tempering the body through the lightning tribulation. The more heaven-defying a person was, the more powerful the heavenly tribulation would be. An innate spirit body was born against the natural order and was not an ordinary body. Therefore it was the most terrifying when undergoing tribulation. However, the area of Lu Ming's tribulation cloud had already exceeded that of an ordinary connate spirit body. Very soon, Lu Ming's tribulation clouds range had reached 200 miles. Thick dark clouds filled the air above their heads, covering the sky and the sun. This kind of aura made people feel that a great disaster was coming. In the dark clouds, bolts of lightning were swimming. Some of them were as large as mountains and were extremely huge. In front of them, Lu Ming seemed very small. In the distance, more and more people were alarmed by the tribulation clouds. In the crowd, there was a person who looked at Lu Ming under the tribulation cloud with a cold gaze. He was Lu Yan of the Heavenly God sect. Senior brother Lu Yan, is this the person you were talking about? Beside Lu Yan, a few disciples of the Heavenly God sect asked. That's right, it's this person. So he's here to pass the tribulation and become a sovereign. Then let his beautiful dream come true. Lu Yan coldly said. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yan, are you planning to kill him while he is undergoing his tribulation? It's too dangerous. A disciple of the Heavenly God sect said with a grave expression. If he was dragged into the other party's tribulation, he would also suffer. Doesn't matter. I've just become an emperor and I've also gone through a major tribulation. A tribulation can't do anything to me. Besides, I still have a tribulation transcending heavenly treasure with me. It'll kill him when he's going through the tribulation and make his dream of becoming an emperor vanish. Lu Yan said. That's right. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yan has already transcended the innate spirit body tribulation, which is an extremely terrifying heavenly tribulation. Coupled with the tribulation transcending heavenly treasure, there's indeed no harm in it. This brat is dead for sure. A few of the Heavenly God sect's disciples began to flatter him. Lu Yan's eyes flashed with ferocity. Boom, boom, boom. The sky and earth rumbled. More and more lightning appeared in the dark clouds, constantly cutting through the sky and illuminating the world. Selah. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning streaked across the void and struck down on Lu Ming. The heavenly tribulation had begun. Lu Ming looked up at the sky and stood still, allowing the lightning to strike him. Boom. The lightning landed on Lu Ming's body, causing his body to go numb. A numbing sensation spread throughout his body. It feels good, let's do it again. Lu Ming revealed a look of anticipation. He wanted to use lightning to form a spirit body. Boom. 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 Following that, a bolt of lightning struck down from the sky one after another, striking towards Lu Ming. Some of the lightning bolts were as thick as mountains and completely drowned Lu Ming. The people around them watched quietly. They all knew that the heavenly tribulation wasn't very strong at the beginning, but it would get stronger and more terrifying later on. Endless lightning drowned Lu Ming. He did not know how many lightning bolts had struck down. It feels so good. Lu Ming did not use the early stage of the chaos domain. He did not even use his essential core to resist. He only used his physical body to resist the lightning tribulation. As the lightning struck down, Lu Ming's body felt numb and itchy. His spirit body continued to strengthen and condense under the tempering of the lightning tribulation. After a few minutes, the lightning in the sky suddenly stopped and did not strike down. However, this did not mean that it was over. Everyone knew that the truly powerful and terrifying lightning was about to descend. The aura in the sky became even more oppressive, and dark clouds rolled as if they were brewing. After a long while, another bolt of lightning struck down. However, the lightning this time was very different from the previous ones. This time the color of the lightning was deeper and it looked more terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of lightning drowned Lu Ming. From the outside, Lu Ming's figure could not be seen at all. All they could see was a ball of white light. This kind of lightning was very dangerous for geniuses who were breaking through to the martial emperor realm. They had to do their best to resist it, and there was a risk of death if they were not careful. An ordinary person could become an emperor after passing this level of lightning tribulation. This kid's combat strength is very strong. There's still one more level of tribulation lightning, the purple flame tribulation lightning. That's the time for me to attack. In the crowd, Lu Yan's mind was spinning with thoughts, but he did not start attacking. This time Lu Ming did not resist. He simply blocked it with his spirit body and circulated the dragon god combat body to condense his physical body. This power is more like it. The one just now was too weak. Lu Ming thought to himself, let the lightning tribulation strike me. If this was heard by others, they would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. To others it was a fatal threat. However, to Lu Ming it was just an ordinary threat. He did not need to resist at all. He could block it with his body. After a while, the wave of lightning tribulation ended. Boom, boom, boom. Dark clouds covered the sky and lightning flashed. A purple light spread out. As expected, there's more. The next wave is the purple fire lightning tribulation. This guy is so strong. He's going to undergo 3 lightning tribulations. It's said that an innate spirit body needs to go through 4 lightning tribulations. I wonder if this guy will have 4 lightning tribulations. I don't know. This guy's dark clouds cover 200 miles, which is even larger than the dark clouds of the innate spirit body. There should be 4 layers, right? Discussions could be heard all around. This time the tribulation clouds took even longer to brew. Half an hour passed. Boom. A bolt of purple lightning streaked across the sky and struck Lu Ming. The lightning looked purple because it was covered with a layer of purple fire. It was a tribulation fire which was as powerful as the lightning tribulation. The power of the two combined was even more shocking. Boom. The lightning struck Lu Ming's body. His body trembled slightly and he blocked the lightning. The lightning tribulation disappeared, but a layer of purple flames burned on Lu Ming's body. This was the terrifying power of the tribulation fire. The thunder tribulation could be extinguished, but the tribulation fire was difficult to extinguish. It would stick to the body of the person undergoing the tribulation until the person was burned to ashes. Lu Ming's body lit up with vital essence and began to resist the invasion of the tribulation fire. Boom. Following that, bolts of purple lightning tribulation struck down continuously and drowned Lu Ming. At that moment, a figure dashed towards the place where Lu Ming was undergoing his tribulation like a bolt of lightning. Many people were shocked. Who is that? What do you want to do? That's Lu Yen from the Heavenly God sect. He's going to charge into the other party's tribulation transcendence? Flowing flames breakthrough caused many people to be shocked. Buzz. Flowing flame directly charged into the tribulation cloud's area of effect. Boom. As soon as he charged in, a bolt of purple lightning struck towards Lu Yen. However, Lu Yen casually waved his hand and the purple lightning was destroyed. He had just gone through a lightning tribulation, so this purple flame lightning tribulation couldn't do anything to him. Boom. Boom. Immediately after, even more purple lightning bolts struck toward Lu Yen. A layer of terrifying flames appeared on Lu Yan's body to block the lightning. He was breaking through the lightning tribulation and approaching Lu Ming. Flowing flame. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. Lu Yen actually wanted to kill him while he was undergoing his tribulation. Chapter 1413, 1413 Chapter 1413 Depressed Lu Yen. Then come. Lu Ming sneered. Boom, boom, boom. The purple lightning tribulation was getting more and more terrifying. Lightning bolts as thick as mountains kept striking down on the two of them. Boom, boom. Lu Ming exploded. He punched out continuously with both fists. Streams of fist force rushed into the sky and destroyed the purple fire lightning tribulation. The tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to be enraged by Lu Ming's outburst and the rush of the flowing flames. They churned violently and more purple flame lightning tribulation fell. So many lightning tribulations? But you can't stop me. Lu Yen shouted coldly. He swung his palm and a blade light burst out, breaking the lightning tribulation one by one. He was rapidly approaching Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming's figure moved and he retreated rapidly, pulling apart the distance between him and Lu Yen. You can't escape. The flowing flame continued to break through the lightning and chased after Lu Ming. The tribulation cloud covered a radius of 200 miles. Lu Ming was in the center of the tribulation cloud. Lu Yen was only 80 to 90 miles away from Lu Ming. However, this distance was difficult to cross due to the lightning tribulation. As long as Lu Yen came close, Lu Ming would retreat. Damn it, you're courting death. Lu Yen shouted angrily as his aura exploded. The aura of a martial royal realm expert filled the air, and flames covered his body. His innate flame spiritual body had broken through the martial royal realm and completed a transformation. It had become even more terrifying, reaching the level of a low-grade spiritual body. The flames condensed into a long blade, and with a slash, it destroyed the lightning tribulation. His speed increased. However, the purple lightning tribulation suddenly disappeared. However, the tribulation cloud seemed to be really angry. This time it didn't even prepare. In the sky, dense lightning bolts struck down. This time the lightning had 4 colors. There were 4 different colors of lightning, and the surface of each lightning was covered with different things. Some were covered in flames, some were covered in wind, some were covered in water, and some were golden in color. The 4th lightning punishment had arrived. This lightning tribulation was several times more terrifying than the pure purple flame lightning tribulation. This kind of lightning tribulation was the terrifying lightning tribulation that an innate spirit body had to face. Damn it! The 4th lightning punishment is coming so quickly. Lu Yen roared in his heart. The time it took for the 3rd and 4th lightning punishment to pass was faster than he had expected. The 4th lightning punishment was something that even he had to be careful about. A tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. With a thought, a purple bead flew out and hovered above Lu Yan's head, emitting a light barrier that enveloped Lu Yan. And NBSP, the tribulation lightning struck the purple light barrier, causing it to shake violently, but it was still blocked. What a powerful tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. Can even block the 4th heavenly tribulation. In the distance, many people revealed envious expressions. An ordinary tribulation transcending heavenly treasure would be considered pretty good if it could withstand the 2nd lightning tribulation. However, Lu Yan's tribulation transcending heavenly treasure was actually able to withstand the 4th lightning tribulation. Its power was astonishing, and it was definitely a top-tier tribulation transcending heavenly treasure. Flowing Flame's speed increased greatly and he approached Lu Ming rapidly. Buzz. Then he rapidly retreated. Kill, die. Lu Yen bellowed as he swung his palm down. A vast flaming saber light slashed toward Lu Ming. But as soon as the blade light appeared, it was dispersed by the lightning tribulation. Damn it, I have to get close to that guy to kill him. A cold glint flashed in Lu Yan's eyes. He broke through the lightning tribulation and approached Lu Ming at top speed. However, Lu Ming used the wind element technique and retreated at top speed, maintaining a distance of several dozen miles from Lu Yan. What's wrong with this guy? How can he be so fast in the face of the 4th lightning tribulation? After chasing for a while, the distance between the two was still unable to be closed, causing Lu Yen to become a little anxious. He could not kill Lu Ming if he did not pull him closer. Of course, he did not know that the 4th wave of lightning punishment was a fatal threat to others. However, to Lu Ming it was just fine. He did not have to go all out to resist it. The 2 of them, one chasing and one escaping, circled around in this area. Damn it, brat, I'll spare your life today. After chasing for a while, seeing that he could not catch up to Lu Ming, Lu Yen wanted to retreat. You can't come and go as you please. Accompany me to continue the tribulation. Lu Ming sneered. As soon as Lu Yen retreated, Lu Ming advanced and closed the distance between him and Lu Yen, allowing the tribulation cloud to envelop Lu Yen. You're looking for death. Lu Yen flew into a rage and stopped retreating. He wanted to rush forward and kill Lu Ming, but as soon as he advanced, Lu Ming retreated, and as soon as he retreated, Lu Ming advanced. This infuriated Lu Yen and he was unable to get away. This stalemate continued for a while before the lightning tribulation suddenly disappeared. The heavenly tribulation has passed. This guy needs to stabilize his realm. Let's see how you can catch me. The disappearance of the heavenly tribulation caused Lu Yen to be overjoyed. With the heavenly tribulation gone, he could easily escape and find an opportunity to kill Lu Ming. However, the next moment Lu Yan's expression changed drastically. That was because the tribulation clouds in the sky had not dissipated at all. Instead, they had become even thicker. The tribulation cloud that had originally covered a radius of 200 li suddenly expanded to cover a radius of 300 li. The oppressive pressure it gave off made it difficult for Lu Yen to breathe. How is that possible? Could this be the 5th lightning tribulation? Lu Yen roared, revealing a look of fear. Run, run, run. Lu Yen almost wanted to cry. He turned around and ran, trying to escape the range of the lightning tribulation. Gah! At this moment, a screech resounded through the sky as a huge goshawk descended from the sky at an incredible speed. In an instant, it had arrived above Lu Yan's head and was swooping down towards him. 5th heavenly tribulation, thunder tribulation transformation. Lu Yen roared in horror, his face filled with disbelief. Lu Ming was still going through the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, it was the legendary fifth heavenly tribulation, the Thunder Tribulation manifestation. An ordinary innate spirit body would only have 4 lightning punishments when they went through the martial royal ordeal. Unless it was some extremely abnormal guy, there would be a 5th lightning punishment. Bang! The heavenly tribulation transcending treasure, the goshawk formed by the lightning tribulation, crashed into Lu Yan's heavenly tribulation transcending treasure, and the light screen formed by the heavenly tribulation transcending treasure trembled violently, almost collapsing. Run! Lu Yan's only thought right now was to escape, the further the better. However, Lu Ming would not let him have his way. He was rapidly approaching him. The lightning tribulation is taking form? Lu Ming's lips curled into a faint smile. This wasn't the first time he had encountered such a lightning tribulation. It had appeared when he was undergoing the spiritual god tribulation. Roar, roar. 2 loud roars were heard as the 2 giant tigers formed by the lightning tribulation pounced toward Lu Ming. Prison suppressing heaven art. Lu Ming threw 2 punches and the 2 giant tigers were sent flying. On the other side, 2 more lightning tribulation goshawks appeared, and a total of 3 of them pounced toward Lu Yan. Bang! Bang! The light screen formed by the flowing flame tribulation transcending heavenly treasure finally couldn't hold on any longer and exploded. The bead also exploded. The heavenly tribulation transcending treasure exploded, and a few goshawks pounced toward Lu Yan. Get lost! Lu Yan roared. His domain covered his entire body and he charged toward the 3 goshawks. However, he had already passed the martial royal ordeal and entered the martial royal realm. Now that he was enveloped by the clouds of ordeal, the power of the lightning tribulation that struck him was greater than that of Lu Ming. It was his own ordeal. He had to face his own 5 great tribulations. Chapter 1414 Chapter 1414 Struck to death by lightning. However, he had only experienced the 4th stage of the martial emperor tribulation before. The power of the 5th stage had already exceeded his imagination. Boom! 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 Although flowing flame had sent the 3 thunder tribulation goshawks flying, he had also left a few bloody marks on his body. The power of the thunder tribulation was desperately drilling into his body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. But to his despair, more lightning tribulation creatures appeared in the sky. This time it was 2 giant pythons and they pounced toward him. At the same time, the 3 goshawks also pounced towards Lu Yan. Now he could only protect himself. He had no strength to chase after Lu Ming. After a few explosions, Lu Yan's body was in tatters, his hair was disheveled, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Many wounds appeared on his body, making him look extremely ferocious. If it wasn't for the fact that his fire spiritual body was extremely powerful, and that it was a low-tier earth spiritual body with extremely tenacious vitality, he would have been in danger. However, a few more living beings appeared in the sky and charged toward Lu Yan. In the end, a total of 9 lightning tribulation creatures surrounded Flowing Flame and began to fight. Flowing Flame used all of his strength to fight the 9 tribulation lightning creatures. Hold on, I must hold on. As long as I can survive this wave of lightning tribulation, I can escape. Not only that, I can also use the 5th wave of lightning tribulation to temper my spiritual body and make it stronger. Flowing Flame warned himself like this. He would use all of his strength to battle with the lightning tribulation creatures. Lu Ming was also facing the attacks of 6 lightning tribulation creatures, but he was much more relaxed than Lu Yan. The 3rd bloodline was suspended in the air, and wisps of energy surged into Lu Ming's body. He activated his vital essence and used the prison-suppressing heavenly art to fight the 9 lightning tribulation creatures. Every time Lu Ming threw a punch, a lightning tribulation creature would be sent flying. At the same time, Lu Ming could also deliberately release some of the power of the lightning tribulation and let it surge into his body to temper his spirit body. It's not enough. This level of lightning tribulation is more or less enough to train my spirit body. However, it's still not enough to train my primal chaos domain to become a complete primal chaos domain. I need a stronger lightning tribulation. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. If other people knew Lu Ming's thoughts, they would probably be angered to death. Other people hoped that the power of the lightning tribulation would be as weak as possible. However, Lu Ming felt that the power of the lightning tribulation was not enough and wanted a stronger lightning tribulation. This was already the 5th lightning punishment. Die, let's go. Lu Ming shouted. A layer of chaotic color suddenly spread out from his body. The embryonic form of the chaos domain was activated and Lu Ming's combat strength increased greatly. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming threw 9 punches in a row. The 9 living beings formed by the lightning bolts exploded and disappeared into wisps of lightning. The heavens! In the distance, the people who saw the scene were dumbfounded. All of a sudden, the 9 creatures formed by the lightning tribulation were scattered. This was too shocking. Didn't he see that on the other side Lu Yen was trying his best to defend? He's done it. He's passed the Martial Emperor Tribulation, the 5th lightning tribulation. What a monster. When he grows up, he'll be able to compete with the top monsters in the Azure continent. That's right. This man has such potential. He seems to be a disciple of the Dragon God Valley. Another monstrous figure has appeared in the Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming's performance caused many people to discuss. Some people's eyes flickered as they pondered about how to get rid of Lu Ming and eliminate this great enemy. And NBSP hoo-hoo. Lu Yen was panting heavily. Lu Ming had defeated 9 lightning creatures in one go. The 9 lightning creatures that had besieged Lu Yen had also disappeared. Lu Yen was in an extremely miserable state. He was covered in injuries and even now there were still lightning bolts running around his body, causing his aura to be extremely weak. But he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He had passed the lightning tribulation. However, Lu Yen suddenly felt that something was wrong. After the lightning tribulation, the tribulation clouds in the sky should have dissipated, right? Why were they still there? Furthermore, he had become stronger. Lu Yan's eyes widened. That's right, the tribulation cloud was rolling as if there was a savage beast roaring inside. The tribulation cloud's coverage had expanded again, covering a radius of 400 miles. Endless lightning bolts swam in the tribulation clouds, and the terrifying aura made people who were watching from thousands of miles away gasp. The 6th lightning tribulation. No. Lu Yen roared hysterically. The 6th round of lightning tribulation, it's good that it's coming. Ha! Lu Ming burst out laughing. In the distance, the people who were watching widened their eyes in disbelief. It was actually the 6th round of thunder tribulation. There was still a 6th round of thunder tribulation. They had thought that Lu Ming had survived this ordeal and it was over. However, he did not expect that Lu Ming's lightning tribulation would be beyond his imagination. There was actually a 6th lightning tribulation. The 6th lightning tribulation was a legendary lightning tribulation. It had not appeared in the Azure region for a long time. Escape, escape, escape. Lu Yen had gone completely mad and he frantically tried to escape. However, whoosh. High up in the sky, a sword light slashed down towards flowing flame. Puchi. One of Lu Yan's arms was cut off, and the endless power of lightning turned the arm into ashes. The remaining power of lightning madly drilled into Lu Yan's wound, making it difficult for it to heal. Originally, with his fire spirit body, even if he were to lose an arm, he would be able to regrow it in an instant. At most, it would only cost him some vital chi. But now, under the destructive power of lightning, it was impossible. Whoosh, whoosh. Then 2 more weapons flew down from the sky. A saber and a spear. They were all made of lightning. The 6th heavenly tribulation, the lightning tribulation transforming into weapons. No. Lu Yen tried his best to block it, but the power of the 6th level was completely beyond the scope of his strength. The tribulation lightning war saber slashed down, breaking through Lu Yan's layers of defense. In the end, the lightning spear pierced through Lu Yan's forehead. Lu Yen let out a blood-curdling screech as his entire body exploded into flames and reappeared several kilometers away. At this moment, Lu Yan's face was deathly pale and his aura was extremely weak. If he didn't have a low-tier earth spiritual body and a fire spiritual body, he would have died. However, even if he had managed to escape, the result was already set in stone. Buzz. In the sky, another combat sword slashed down. No. Lu Yen let out a long howl of unwillingness and took one last look at Lu Ming. He hoped to see Lu Ming die under the lightning tribulation. However, he was disappointed. Lu Ming was like an invincible god of war. His entire body was covered in chaotic light as he fought against the thunder weapon. With a punch, one of the thunder weapons was sent flying. The combat sword slashed through Lu Yan's forehead. This time Lu Yan could no longer recover. The destructive power of the lightning had destroyed his body and soul. Why? That was Lu Yan's last thought. Why? He had wanted to take the opportunity to kill Lu Ming. Why did he die under the lightning tribulation in the end? How ironic was this? Chapter 1415, 1415 Chapter 1415 World Refinement Tribulation Bell. The people who were watching the battle from afar were also dumbfounded. Lu Yan had taken the tribulation transcending heavenly treasure with him and had wanted to kill Lu Ming while he was transcending his tribulation. However, in the end Lu Ming was fine, but Lu Yan himself had been killed by the heavenly tribulation. Lu Yan is really unlucky to have met a monster. Someone sighed. Many people nodded in agreement. Lu Yan was just unlucky. If Lu Ming was just an ordinary martial artist, or even if he had an innate spirit body, he would probably be killed by flowing flame in the lightning tribulation. However, Lu Ming was not one of them. He was a monster who could attract the sixth heavens test. Senior apprentice brother Lu Yan is dead. We have to report this matter to the other senior apprentices. This person can't be left alive. Some of the heavenly god sect disciples at the scene conversed with each other before leaving the place. Plang, plang. Lu Ming swung his fist and collided with the combat weapon formed by the lightning tribulation. The terrifying sound of the collision resounded through the sky. All sorts of weapons rained down from the sky, but no matter how many thunder weapons there were, they could not stop Lu Ming. Good, this kind of power is right. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. And NBSP he discovered that only the power of the seventh lightning tribulation could truly temper his primal chaos domain. Every time he punched out, there would be bolts of lightning around his body, helping him train his spirit body. A dragon's roar came from his body as if a true dragon was about to awaken. Every time he clashed with the tribulation lightning weapon, it was a form of training for his primal chaos domain. He could feel that his chaos domain was transforming into a complete chaos domain. The seventh lightning punishment lasted for a long time, at least half an hour. Buzz. All of a sudden, Lu Ming's embryonic chaos realm contracted and retracted back into the spiritual god. But immediately after it spread out again. However, this time the chaos domain was no longer in its embryonic form, but a complete chaos domain. The primal chaos domain had finally broken through under the tempering of the sixth lightning tribulation, becoming a complete primal chaos domain. Boom. The complete chaos domain covered Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming threw a punch and a blurry light of chaos burst out. The thunder tribulation weapons exploded with a bang. What a powerful force. Lu Ming was overjoyed. The complete chaos domain was too powerful. It was much stronger than the embryonic form of the chaos domain. At the same time, the other lightning tribulation warriors in the sky also scattered and disappeared without a trace. Have you transcended the heavenly tribulation? Many people had the same question in their minds. And NBSP hoo-hoo. At this moment, the tribulation clouds in the sky started to become smaller and started to gather towards the center. It seems that he has passed the thunder tribulation. This person is amazing. He has actually passed the sixth round of thunder tribulation. It's indeed amazing and terrifying. However, he's only at LV1 martial royal realm now. He's far from those real Heaven's Pride experts. Unless he can grow up, it's useless no matter how strong he is if he dies halfway. The surrounding spectators began to discuss, thinking that Lu Ming had finally passed the heavenly tribulation. However, Lu Ming did not think so. He looked at the sky, his eyes shining. This was because he felt a powerful pressure that was several times stronger than the sixth heaven test. There's more. Lu Ming muttered. And NBSP hoo-hoo. The tribulation clouds within a radius of several hundred miles continued to gather, and finally turned into a tribulation cloud with a radius of only 30 miles. Hey. In the tribulation cloud, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, shaking the sky. At this time, those surrounding spectators also discovered that the situation was not right. What's going on? The tribulation clouds didn't dissipate but instead gathered together. That kind of fluctuation makes one's heart palpitate. It can't be. There's also the seventh heavens test. When those people guessed the final answer, they were all stunned. The heavenly tribulation was not over yet. There was still the seventh lightning tribulation. How was this possible? In the Azure region, it had been tens of thousands of years since anyone had passed the seventh lightning tribulation. There was a legend in the world that those who could pass the seventh heavenly tribulation had the potential to become a great emperor. Although it only had the potential, it was already shocking enough. In the vast Azure continent, ever since Emperor Tsong disappeared, no other great emperor was born. Each great emperor was a legend in the world. They ruled an area and moved unhindered across the world. This kind of person's lifespan was unknown, and he almost lived forever. The ultimate goal of all cultivators was to become a great emperor. Oh my God, there's such a monster in Dragon God Valley. I wonder if he can survive this tribulation. Just watch. Look, the World Refining Tribulation Bell. It's the World Refining Tribulation Bell. It's said that the World Refining Tribulation Bell only appears in the seventh lightning tribulation of the Martial Royal Tribulation. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared ahead. Above Lu Ming's head, the tribulation cloud rolled. Countless lightning bolts gathered to form a bell. It was a huge bell of tribulation lightning. Buzz. The bell trembled and descended from the sky, shrouding Lu Ming. Lu Ming could not avoid the bell of heavenly tribulation. He was enveloped by the World Refinement Tribulation Bell. There was a terrifying energy within the bell that enveloped Lu Ming. It was a kind of refining power that could refine Lu Ming's entire body. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated his quintessential essence. The chaos domain covered his entire body to resist the refining force. However, this power of refinement was extremely mysterious. Although a portion of it was blocked by the chaos domain, a small portion of it still seeped into the chaos domain and even into the spiritual god. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. The spiritual god was the weakest and most crucial part of the human body. If the spiritual god was destroyed, it was equivalent to death. The refining power surged into his spiritual god, and a tearing pain instantly came from his spiritual god. The pain came from the soul, and it was tens or even hundreds of times stronger than the physical body. The power of refinement could even refine the soul. Block it. Lu Ming growled and gritted his teeth. He knew that if he couldn't hold on any longer, his spiritual god would break apart and he would be completely refined by the World Refining Tribulation Bell. Lu Ming had finally encountered a crisis since he transcended the tribulation. Lu Ming sat cross-legged in the big bell, resisting with all his might. Outside there were at least a few hundred people watching. They were curious if Lu Ming could survive the seventh lightning punishment. The seventh lightning tribulation, the World Refinement Tribulation Bell. It's extremely terrifying and can refine everything. For tens of thousands of years, there have been geniuses in the Azure continent who faced such a tribulation, but they were all refined by the World Refinement Tribulation Bell. That's right. It's too difficult to pass the seventh heaven test. Some people sighed. Time passed by slowly. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. In the blink of an eye, 10 hours had passed. Lu Ming was still persevering in the World Refinement Tribulation Bell. At this moment, Lu Ming's appearance was extremely terrifying. All the muscles in his body seemed to have been corroded away, leaving only a skeleton. In fact, the power of refinement had already begun to refine the bone banner. Inside the spiritual god was dim and had no light. Lu Ming's soul was like a candle flame in the wind that could be extinguished at any time. Chapter 1416. 1416 Lu Ming becomes an emperor. However, Lu Ming did not give up. He was still resisting and persevering. Time passed by quickly. 10 hours passed and another 10 hours passed. Lu Ming's entire skeleton armor was about to be refined. Only the chaos domain was still covering him. The soul fluctuations within the spiritual god were extremely weak, and as time passed, it became weaker and weaker. If Lu Ming's original soul force was equivalent to a moon, then his current soul force was equivalent to a firefly. Another 10 hours had passed. Lu Ming had been trapped in the World Refining Tribulation Bell for 30 hours. At this time, Lu Ming's physical body had completely disappeared. He had been refined by the World Refining Tribulation Bell. And NBSP hoo-hoo. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dispersed and disappeared. The World Refining Tribulation Bell below also disappeared with a bang. As for Lu Ming, there was no trace of him at all. There was no one in the air. He had vanished into thin air. The heavenly tribulation has passed, but where are the people? There's no one here. It seems that this person didn't pass the 7th heavenly tribulation and was refined by the world refining tribulation bell. It's a pity that a monster of his generation died under the heavenly tribulation. I just said that no matter how monstrous he is, he's useless if he doesn't grow up. Sighs could be heard from all around. Some people felt pity for Lu Ming, who was a monstrous talent of his generation. He had fallen under the heavenly tribulation. However, there were also people who mocked him and even gloated. Let's go. We've already wasted too much time searching for the treasures left behind by the great emperor. Some people spoke and soon not a single person was left in this area. The sky was completely silent, as if everything that had happened earlier was an illusion. 2 hours later, a spot of light suddenly lit up at the place where Lu Ming had just transcended the tribulation. At first the spot of light was a little dim, but slowly it became brighter and brighter. At first it was like a firefly, but slowly it became like a candle. Then it became like the stars, the sun and the moon. A terrifying suction force was born from the light spot. The original qi within a radius of tens of thousands of miles was frantically gathering towards the light spot. The light spot was like a black hole devouring the original qi. And NBSP hu. Endless origin qi gathered, and the outline of the light spot slowly appeared. It was a human form. It was the spiritual god, Lu Ming's spiritual god. Lu Ming did not die. He was not refined. Previously, the tribulation clouds and the world refinement tribulation bell disappeared not because Lu Ming was refined and died, but because Lu Ming had successfully passed the tribulation. At this moment, Lu Ming was recovering. The suction force grew stronger and stronger. The origin energy of heaven and earth in a radius of tens of thousands of miles was extremely dense. Slowly, the origin energy around Lu Ming's spirit god turned into liquid. The liquid squirmed and began to condense into a physical body. Lu Ming's physical body. Roar. A dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. Between heaven and earth, the shadow of 9 dragons emerged and entered Lu Ming's body, disappearing. Half a day later, Lu Ming's body was completely in the air. At this time, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. With a thought, a set of clothes appeared and he put them on. I finally made it through. What a terrifying world refining tribulation bell. Lu Ming secretly sighed. Even Lu Ming had a narrow escape when he faced the refining corpse calamity bell. In the end he managed to survive with his strong willpower. The world refining tribulation bell was said to be able to refine the world. Its refining power was too terrifying. Not only could it refine the physical body, but it could also refine the spirit and soul. However, there were great benefits to surviving. Lu Ming's current realm had completely surpassed the spiritual god realm. He had entered the martial emperor realm. He was currently in the early stage of the first-level martial monarch realm. Boom! Lu Ming got up and threw a punch. A loud rumble was heard in the sky. A fist force flew out and pierced a huge hole in a mountain, making it bright from the front and back. This was the Yuan continent, the great emperor's secret realm, not the divine ruins continents. Everything in the world was extremely frozen. Lu Ming could punch through a mountain with one punch, so how terrifying was his power. Moreover, it was just pure physical strength. There's actually chaos qi permeating my body. Lu Ming sensed it carefully and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. His muscles and bones seemed to be filled with chaotic qi. Although it was very faint, it was indeed chaotic qi. Lu Ming's spirit body had also reached the level of a low-grade earth spirit body. It was the same as what was recorded in the Dragon God combat body. However, due to the chaotic qi in his body, Lu Ming's spirit body was stronger than the average inferior earth spirit body. My soul has also been greatly improved and tempered. Lu Ming was overjoyed to see the soul. He could feel that his soul was many times stronger than before, be it in terms of toughness, strength or soul power. It was at least a few dozen times stronger. One was heaven and the other was earth. From what Lu Ming knew, it was extremely difficult to improve one's soul. It was more than 100 times more difficult than improving one's martial arts cultivation. The stronger the soul, the stronger the life force of the spiritual god. Even if the spiritual god was injured, it would not die easily. In short, Lu Ming had successfully broken through to the martial royal realm this time. He had improved greatly in all aspects and his strength had skyrocketed. I wonder how strong I am now. Lu Ming was filled with anticipation. He did not dare to say anything else, But Lu Ming was confident that if he returned to the continent group of the Divine Ruins now, it would definitely be easy to kill the 4th-level martial emperors. Of course, the Yuan continent's emperor's combat strength far exceeded the Divine Ruins continent. Lu Ming had never fought him before, so it was not easy to measure. Also, Lu Ming stretched out his palm and pointed it at the void. Instantly, a terrifying devouring force erupted from Lu Ming's palm. The origin chi in the world gathered toward Lu Ming in a frenzy. The devouring power of the 9 dragons. According to the records of the Dragon God Combat Body, the Dragon God Combat Body condensed from 9 dragons retained the skill of devouring power. Moreover, Lu Ming's body could now burst out with devouring power at any time. It was more convenient than before. This way my cultivation will be faster. Lu Ming smiled. With a thought, the devouring power disappeared. It's been more than 10 days since I entered the Great Emperor's secret realm. It's time to take action. I can't come to the Great Emperor's secret realm in vain. Lu Ming smiled, then stepped into the air and disappeared. The Great Emperor's secret realm was a plain. It was extremely vast and there were vast mountains everywhere. Lu Ming's speed was very fast. He passed by the mountain below in a flash. There are buildings. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a building halfway up a mountain below him. He flew down. This was a palace. It looked very old, but it was intact. It was obvious that someone had lived here in the past. Lu Ming stepped in. The hall was quiet and empty. Lu Ming walked around but found nothing. Even if there's something here, it would have been taken away by others. Lu Ming smiled and left the place. Chapter 1417. 1417 Heavenly Dao Mark. Next, Lu Ming saw a few places with buildings. However, he did not discover anything after entering. In some places, traces of fighting were found. It was clear that some people had arrived earlier and taken away the things inside the palace. The Great Emperor's secret realm naturally can't only have the Great Emperor living in it. It's said that there are many Saint Realm experts under the Great Emperor. As for the emperors, they're just servants. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Even if he couldn't get the treasures left by the Great Emperor, he would make a big profit as long as he could get the treasures left by the Saint Realm. It was obvious that the buildings that Lu Ming had encountered were the residences of the Great Emperor's subordinates. Not long after, Lu Ming saw a cave abode in a valley. At a glance, it was a cave abode where warriors cultivated in seclusion. Lu Ming walked toward the cave abode. Whoosh! Just as Lu Ming was approaching the cave abode, a ray of sword light shot out from the cave abode and went straight for Lu Ming's throat. The sharpness of the sword was definitely that of an emperor. Plang! Lu Ming stretched out a finger and flicked it at the long sword. The long sword buzzed and trembled before it was sent flying. "It's you, Lu Ming." A delicate voice was heard. Lu Ming focused his eyes and was stunned. "Young Lady Qiu." The person who attacked Lu Ming just now was Qiu Ying. "Lu Ming, I'm sorry. I thought it was someone else just now." Qiu Ying looked at Lu Ming apologetically. "It's fine. Where's your brother?" Lu Ming said. "My brother is cultivating in there. An expert left a heavenly Dao mark in this cave abode." Qiu Ying said. "Heavenly Dao engraving?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up. "That's right, you'll know when you come in." Qiu Ying said. Lu Ming nodded and entered the cave abode with Qiu Ying. The cave abode was very wide. On one of the walls of the cave abode, there was a mark that seemed to have been carved by someone with finger force. Lu Ming took a look and was deeply attracted. This mark was like the incarnation of the Great Dao. From this mark, one could comprehend the mysteries of the Great Dao. It was very difficult for a martial monarch to improve. First of all, he had to comprehend his domain. Domains were divided into 9 levels. It corresponded to the 9th level of the martial royal realm. One's cultivation could only be improved after the territory was improved. In order to increase his cultivation, he not only needed to refine his Jin Yuan, but also his spirit body. Therefore, every step forward in the martial emperor realm was not easy. These great Dao marks were carved on the stone wall when experts comprehended the heavenly Dao. Later generations could comprehend the heavenly Dao according to the marks and comprehend their own domain from the heavenly Dao, thus achieving the goal of improving their domain. After a while, Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Under the stone wall, a figure was sitting cross-legged, quietly comprehending. Obviously, Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao had also passed the martial royal ordeal and reached the martial royal realm. Just now, Qiu Hao must have been comprehending the heaven Dao carvings here, and Qiu Ying was guarding Qiu Hao. When she saw someone approaching, she attacked. Young lady Qiu, brother Qiu is currently in the process of comprehending. We'll be standing guard outside the cave. I'm afraid we'll disturb him if we stay here. Lu Ming said. All right. Qiu Ying nodded and walked out of the cave abode with Lu Ming. They waited quietly outside. About 3 hours later, Qiu Hao walked out of the cave abode. He was overjoyed to see Lu Ming. Brother, you've finished comprehending? Qiu Ying asked. Yes, that heavenly Dao mark is not too profound. Furthermore, with my comprehension I can only comprehend up to this point. Qiu Hao nodded and sighed. As expected, it's not of much use. Lu Ming shook his head secretly. The devoured energy was still useful in increasing true yuan and condensing spirit bodies, but it had no effect on improving his territory. A domain was different from a concept. Intent realm. It has intent realm runes that can be devoured and refined. It can be fused into one's own intent realm runes to increase one's own intent realm. However, a domain was even more wondrous. It did not have a physical form and was just a form of comprehension of the martial artist. It was ethereal and naturally could not be devoured and refined. Therefore, one had to rely on their own comprehension to break through the domain. However, Lu Ming was satisfied. He only needed to focus on his domain. His true essence could still be improved by devouring the refining power. This was a huge advantage compared to others. Lu Ming, are you all right? Qiu Ying stepped forward and asked. I'm fine. What about you guys? Lu Ming asked. We're only slightly injured. We'll be fine after we adjust our breathing. Qiu Ying said. Lu Ming, you can continue cultivating. We'll protect you. Qiu Hao said. Lu Ming shook his head and said, there's no need. The heavenly Dao mark is not too profound. I've already comprehended most of it. If I continue to comprehend it, I won't be able to gain much in a short period of time. You guys should recuperate first. After some comprehension, his chaos domain had improved a little. Not only was it completely stable, but it also seemed to have reached the middle stage of level 1. There were 9 levels of domains. Lu Ming could only break through to the second level of the Dao Martial Emperor realm if he cultivated the chaos domain to level 2. Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao sat down cross-legged, took a healing pill and began to heal. 2 hours later, both of their injuries were almost fully recovered. The 3 of them did not stay any longer and soared into the sky, flying forward. Along the way they came across some other buildings or cave abodes, but they were all one step ahead. The 3 of them did not stop and kept moving forward. Not long after, they arrived at a vast land. As far as the eye could see, there was a huge building complex in front of them. Huge palaces stood on a plain. From a distance, Lu Ming and the rest could see silhouettes flickering in the palaces. Many people were exploring the area. Such a large group of buildings. Could it be the emperor's bedroom? Even if it's not, it must be the residence of an important figure. There must be some treasures. Qiu Hao's eyes lit up. Let's go down and try our luck. Let's go, Lu Ming said. The 3 of them descended and landed in front of a huge hall. Boom. Boom. And NBSP, an astonishing boom erupted within the palace. The 3 of them walked up and saw 2 youths engaged in an intense battle. The ground was covered with corpses and blood that had yet to dry up. Hand over the treasure. One of the young men shouted and launched a crazy attack on the other young man. Don't even think about it. Treasures belong to those who are fated to obtain them. Since I've obtained them, it means that I'm fated to obtain them. Another young man shouted. Bullshit, I'll kill you and the treasure will be mine. The man from before shouted. The 2 of them fought so fiercely that the palace was cracked and shattered. It was obvious that a treasure had appeared here and everyone was fighting for it. The corpses here were all heaven's favorites who had entered this place, but now they were all dead. Let's go and take a look elsewhere, Lu Ming said. The 3 of them turned around and left for the other halls. Buzz, buzz, and NBSP whoosh. Suddenly, a group of people flew out from a palace. There were more than 100 of them. They were all young men who had come in. Their faces were pale. "Run, run. Quickly run," the young men shouted. Buzz. Dense inscriptions suddenly appeared in the palace, and then a large array appeared. A black light cut through the void and stabbed toward the youths. Chapter 1419 Chapter 1419 Underground Palace. Ah! 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 A series of shrill screams rang out. Most of the 100 or so people had their bodies pierced by the black light. They fell to the ground, screaming, and no longer made any sound. Only a dozen or so people managed to escape with their lives. All of a sudden, nearly 100 people died. Lu Ming could clearly see that out of the nearly 100 people, half of them had already passed the martial emperor's calamity and become martial emperors. The rest were still at the supreme level, but they had all died in an instant. The great emperor's secret realm was indeed not simple. There was danger at all times. Not only would they have to face the attacks of others, but the process of exploring would also be dangerous. "I just saw someone sitting cross-legged inside. Indeed, there seems to be someone there, but there's no sign of life. He's already dead. There's definitely a treasure." The remaining 10 or so people didn't leave but lingered around. "This is an array, but it's no longer complete after so many years. If we find a gap, we might be able to enter." A young man who cultivated the Tao of inscription glanced around, trying to find a flaw in the formation. Lu Ming did the same as he scanned the surroundings of the hall. Although the clone had not recovered and Lu Ming could not inscribe the formation, he shared the knowledge of the clone. In other words, the main body had the knowledge and vision of the clone. Even if he could not break the formation, he could still find the flaws. "You guys follow me closely," Lu Ming said to Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao. Then he strode forward with Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao following closely behind him. On the other side, the other young men also began to move, looking for the flaws in the formation and stepping in. "Lu Ming, so you know about the Tao of inscription, but I don't feel your mental energy fire. Strange." As they walked, Qiao Ying sized Lu Ming up curiously. She found it rather strange. Lu Ming smiled and did not explain further. The three of them walked in circles, and after a while they finally passed through the formation and entered the hall. "There's someone," Qiao Ying said. In the hall there was a person sitting cross-legged. It was a woman who looked to be in her 40s. Unfortunately, she had no life force. It was obvious that she was a corpse. Could this be someone from the great emperor's secret realm? Emperor Song has been missing for 60,000 years. Could this person have died 60,000 years ago? Qiao Hao guessed. Their hearts trembled. If this person had died 60,000 years ago and his body hadn't rotted yet, then his cultivation must be shockingly high. A saint. The three of them thought at the same time that only a saint realm expert could maintain his body for so many years without rotting. Otherwise, even a peak emperor's body would have rotted after 60,000 years. How did this person die? There's no wound at all, Qiao Ying said. After a careful examination, he did not find any wounds on the other party's body. His storage ring is also gone. Could it be that he was killed and his storage ring was taken away? But why aren't there any wounds? Lu Ming frowned and could not figure it out. The few of them looked around. There were some chairs and tables in the hall, but after so many years, they had already rotted and turned into ashes. In the end, their gazes fell on the woman. She was wearing a purple feather dress, which was obviously a supreme treasure. Even after so many years, it was still shining with spiritual light. This was definitely a valuable treasure. It was worn by a saint, so it was very likely a saint weapon. Holy weapon. Their eyes lit up. At this moment, footsteps were heard and a few young men rushed in. The moment they entered, their gazes fell on the woman. There had been thousands of them, but almost all of them had died from that attack. Only a few people had managed to survive by relying on powerful secret techniques and powerful artifacts. They all looked at the fortress with fear. That fortress was simply a fortress that demanded death. Could it be that a supreme expert was living inside? What was that loud roar just now? After a few roars, the roar stopped and did not continue. What's going on? Lu Ming and the rest stood in the distance, sizing up the fortress with fear on their faces. This fortress was too strange. Just like that, they waited for a moment, but now the fortress was completely silent without any movement. Buzz. At this moment, a jade talisman suddenly appeared on Qiu Ying's body. This jade talisman gave off a slight vibration, and then a light barrier enveloped Qiu Ying. What's going on? Qiu Ying was shocked. Buzz. In the next moment, the jade talisman carried Qiu Ying and flew towards the fortress in front of them. They flew through the gate of the fortress and disappeared. Their speed was astonishing. Ying. Qiu Hao's face turned pale with shock as he hurriedly chased after her and disappeared from the main entrance. There was no other abnormality. What's going on? Lu Ming was a little confused. Why did a jade talisman suddenly fly out of Qiu Ying's body and bring her into the fortress? Everything changed so quickly that Lu Ming could not react in time. Let's go and take a look. In the end, Lu Ming gritted his teeth. The lightning cauldron floated above his head and he enveloped his body with the chaos domain. He flew toward the gate of the fortress. There was nothing unusual all the way to the gate. Lu Ming did not stop. He flew directly into the door. Some people in the outside world were bewildered when they saw this. What's going on? Those few people who flew in were fine. Perhaps it's fine now, someone said. However, no one dared to enter. After a long time, someone finally gritted his teeth and flew towards the gate. He flew into the gate and disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, more people flew in. Furthermore, there were still people flying over from the distance. The inside of the fortress was very wide and huge. After Lu Ming flew through the door, a long passageway appeared in front of him. After flying past the passageway, he saw some forked corridors and passageways. Where did Ying and the others fly to? Lu Ming frowned. He then randomly chose a passage and walked forward. There were stone houses on both sides of the passage. Lu Zhou walked into the first stone house but found nothing. When he entered the second stone house, he finally made a discovery. A skeleton. Lu Ming had discovered a skeleton. The skeleton was as white as jade and it sat cross-legged on the bed. It gave off the feeling that it had suddenly died while cultivating. Lu Ming deduced that he should be an emperor. Chapter 1421, 1421 Chapter 1421 Sacred Medicine. After sizing him up, Lu Ming left the place and headed to other stone houses. Lu Ming found a few skeletons in the stone houses one after another. They should be at the emperor level, but the storage rings were all gone. Lu Ming found nothing. Lu Ming walked along the passageway and finally came to a secret room. There were a few boxes in the secret room. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he opened one of the boxes. Inside there were some refining materials. However, Lu Ming was overjoyed when he took a closer look. This was because these materials were too precious. They could all be used to refine saint weapons. If they were taken out, they would be worth cities. He had finally found something good. Lu Ming smiled and kept the box of refining materials into the mountain and river diagram. Then Lu Ming opened the second big box. The second box also contained refining materials. They were all very precious refining materials for refining holy weapons. After Lu Ming kept it, he looked at the third box. There were only 3 boxes in total. The third box was the smallest. Could it be that they are all forging materials? Lu Ming thought to himself. He then opened the box. As soon as the box was opened, a strange fluctuation spread out. This fluctuation was extremely mysterious. It was like the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was extremely similar to the aura emitted by the heavenly Tao engraving that Lu Ming had seen in the ancient cave mansion. This was the aura of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Lu Ming looked into the box. Inside the box were pieces of chaotic colored stones. Each of them was about the size of a fist and there were about 100 of them. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He seemed to have thought of something and he looked surprised. Could this be the heavenly Tao stone? Lu Ming's heart was thumping. The heavenly Tao stone, as its name suggested, contained the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was said that it was born from chaos at the beginning of the world. Contained the great Tao and was extremely precious. Martial Royal Realm experts could use the heavenly Tao stone to comprehend and upgrade their domains. Even sages could use the heavenly Tao stone to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. However, there were too few heavenly Tao stones. They were born at the beginning of the world, so there were very few of them. Moreover, with every piece used there would be one less. Over the years, the number of heavenly Tao stones had been decreasing, and their prices had also become more and more precious. We're rich. There are so many heavenly Tao stones here. Lu Ming was overjoyed. There were 108 pieces in total. My primal chaos domain is extremely difficult to cultivate and extremely slow to improve. It's far inferior to other domains. However, with the heavenly Tao stone, my speed won't be surpassed by others by too much. Lu Ming had many thoughts in his mind. The Chaos Realm, the Emperor of Thousands of Realms, was powerful, but it had a disadvantage. It was too difficult to cultivate. However, with the heavenly Tao stone, Lu Ming's comprehension speed would definitely be greatly accelerated. Lu Ming kept the heavenly Tao stone in a storage ring. He was afraid that it would be ruined by Dandan if he kept it in the mountain and river diagram. After keeping the heavenly Tao stone, Lu Ming left the place and continued to move forward. Not long after, there was light ahead, and at the same time, a burst of medicinal fragrance filled the air. The smell of herbs, there were spirit herbs. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he strode forward. As expected, there was a herb garden in front of Lu Ming. The strong herbal fragrance was rushing into Lu Ming's nose. So many spiritual herbs. This is the 1,000 opportunity fruit and the jade snow lotus. Lu Ming's eyes swept across the room and there was a burning glow in his eyes. Chapter 1423. 1423 Chapter 1423 Killed in one move, detestable. Qiu Hao growled in his heart. Yin Feng and the others were too despicable. They were clearly trying to use this method to force Qiu Hao and Qiu Ying to hand over the inheritance. It was fine for him to hand over the treasures, but when he was accepting the inheritance he had to be completely focused. If he were to forcefully interrupt, it would be extremely dangerous as it would destroy Qiu Ying. This was something he would never agree to. Even if he had to die. Qiu Hao stood in front of Qiu Ying with the shield in his hand and the golden bell floating above his head. Brat, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The red-faced young man shouted coldly. Who do you want to help? At this moment, a clear voice sounded in the hall. Buzz. Before he could finish his sentence, a shadow flashed and a figure appeared beside Qiu Hao. His speed was so fast that no one could see how he had appeared. Lu Ming. Qiu Hao blurted out subconsciously. That's right, the person who had just appeared was Lu Ming. He had been walking around aimlessly in the fortress. Just now he had arrived here and seen the scene in the hall. He used the wind elemental technique and appeared beside Qiu Hao. Yin Feng, the people from Dragon God Valley. Lu Ming's gaze swept across Yin Feng and the people from Dragon God Valley. The people of Dragon God Valley stood aside, not knowing what was going on. Lu Ming, it's like this. Qiu Hao briefly explained what had happened and Lu Ming immediately understood what had happened. How despicable. Lu Ming cast a glance at Yin Feng. Sis kid. This time let's see how you die. When Yin Feng saw Lu Ming he was stunned at first, then he revealed a cold smile. He was not Lu Ming's match before he reached the martial royal realm. However, now that he had reached the martial royal realm and his spirit body had transformed into a low-grade earth spirit body, he was confident that he could defeat Lu Ming. Brat, you want to interfere in this matter? The red-faced young man's gaze fell on Lu Ming. What do you think? If you know what's good for you, get lost. Lu Ming berated coldly. Presumptuous. You want to interfere in this matter alone? You're courting death. I'll kill you first. The red-faced young man shouted coldly. With a wave of his hand, a blood-red swordlight slashed toward Lu Ming. This person was a disciple of the Blood Demon Tower, one of the 13 top sects in the Azure region. Clang. Lu Ming flicked his finger and flicked the blood-red sword radiance away. At the same time he moved and threw a punch at the red-faced young man. Why would I? The red-faced young man's sword gleam was flicked away by Lu Ming's finger. He was shocked. He waved the long sword in his hand and dozens of sharp blood-red sword gleams bloomed out, stabbing toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's fist force crushed over and the red-faced young man's sword gleam collapsed. Then the fist force landed on the red-faced young man's body. The red-faced young man screamed in pain and his body flew out. His body twitched a few times before he stopped moving. There was no sign of life left in him. Lu Ming's punch had dispersed the spiritual god in the red-faced young man's body. At the side, the other young men were shocked. Killing the red-faced young man with one punch shocked him. Which one of you still wants to die? Lu Ming's gaze swept across the other young men. The young men's expressions changed. Let's attack together. I don't believe that we can't kill him with more than a dozen of us working together. A young man growled. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming appeared beside him and threw a punch. This person was dead. Who else is there? Lu Ming said indifferently. His cold killing intent filled the air, causing the remaining young men's faces to turn ugly. Chapter 1424. 1424. The prodigy leader. The aura on Yin Feng's body was extremely shocking. He had reached the peak of the LV1 martial royal realm. The great emperor secret realm had only been open for a dozen days, but Yin Feng's cultivation had already reached the peak of LV1 martial royal realm. This was truly shocking. However, it wasn't hard to understand. A genius like Yin Feng, who had lived in the Yuan continent since he was young, had already reached the limit of the Supreme Being realm. The reason why he hadn't broken through to the martial emperor realm was because he had been suppressing it. His goal was to enter the great emperor secret realm. They had been suppressed for too long and had accumulated too much. Once they broke through to the emperor realm, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. It was normal for them to reach the peak of the first-level martial emperor realm in a dozen days. In fact, it wouldn't be long before he could break through to the second level of the martial royal realm. Yin Feng exploded with all his strength to fight against Lu Ming. Thump. The two fists collided and the sound was like the ringing of a bell. However, the result was the same. Despite Yin Feng's peak LV1 martial emperor realm cultivation, he was still no match for Lu Ming. He was completely suppressed by Lu Ming and was forced to retreat. In fact, Lu Ming did not even use the chaos realm. He simply used the dragon god combat body and the prison suppressing heavenly technique to fight. Although Lu Ming's astral body was of the same level as Yin Feng, a low-grade astral body, he had been tempered by the world refinement tribulation bell. There was a trace of chaos chi in his body, which made his astral body stronger than the average low-grade astral body. It was close to a medium-grade earth spiritual body. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming continued to punch like an invincible god of war, completely suppressing Yin Feng. Yin Feng's body trembled and he kept retreating. He spat out a mouthful of blood. At the side, the others were greatly shocked. Yin Feng was an innate spiritual body and had even evolved into a low-grade earth spiritual body, but he was still not Lu Ming's match. Lu Ming, this young man from the Savage Island, had a combat strength that was beyond their imagination. What's wrong? This is your combat power. Is this the source of your confidence? Didn't you want me to see the difference between you and me? Lu Ming sneered. Yin Feng let out a beast-like roar. He was so aggrieved. At the supreme level he was suppressed by Lu Ming. Even now he was still suppressed. And a blood-red light flashed on Lu Ming's spine. A wisp of energy from his third blood meridian gushed into Lu Ming's body. A layer of blood-red light emerged on Lu Ming's body, an endless killing intent enveloped Yin Feng. Yin Feng shivered as he was enveloped by the endless killing intent. Boom. After borrowing the power of his third bloodline, Lu Ming's strength increased greatly. When his fist collided with Yin Feng's fist again, a cracking sound was heard from Yin Feng's arm. His arm was completely twisted. Arg. Yin Feng screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppress. Lu Ming pressed his hand down and the phantom of the prison-suppressing steel appeared on his arm, pressing down on Yin Feng. Bang. Yin Feng raised his arms and tried his best to resist. However, he was pressed down by Lu Ming's palm and he immediately knelt down. With a loud bang, he knelt on the ground in front of Lu Ming. Even if you want to beg for mercy, there's no need for such a big gift, right? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Ah, I'm going to kill you. Yin Feng's eyes were red. He roared in anger and struggled madly. Last time, Lu Ming had stepped on his face 9 times and he had become the laughingstock of Dragon God Valley. He was also ridiculed by his competitors. Now he was kneeling in front of Lu Ming. At least half of the sword-tail disc that was originally attacking the young man was now heading toward Lu Ming and the rest. Whoosh, whoosh. Sharp ear-piercing sounds were heard. Hundreds of sharp spikes were aimed at Lu Ming and the other 2. Buzz. Lu Ming activated his Chaos Realm. The Chaos Realm spread out and enveloped all the sword-tail plates. Then Lu Ming pressed down with one hand, and the terrifying power of the Chaos Realm crushed toward the sword-tail plates. The primal chaos domain weighed hundreds of millions of caddies, and the pressure it exerted was astonishing. The spikes exploded in the air and so did the sword-tail plates, crushed to death by the chaos domain. Now take us there. The young man who had dragged Lu Ming and the rest into the water previously said coldly. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lu Ming sneered. What did you just say? The young man's eyes turned cold. You framed me before and wanted to drag me down to help you escape. Now you're actually asking me to bring you over. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lu Ming continued. If you don't take me there, you'll die now. The young man said, his body exuding a cold killing intent. Oh really? Then you just go to hell. As soon as Lu Ming finished speaking, he threw a punch. Driven by Lu Ming's fist force, the chaos domain crushed toward the young man. You still dare to attack? You're courting death. Ah, that's not right. The young man started to shout, but soon he realized that Lu Ming's fist force was unbelievably powerful. He mustered all his strength and slashed with his saber. However, under Lu Ming's fist force, the saber radiance was shattered and the fist force landed on his body. Bang! Half of his body exploded. Although his combat strength was not weaker than Yin Feng's, Lu Ming did not use his Chaos Realm when he fought with Yin Feng previously. Now that he used his Chaos Realm, he could simply crush Yin Feng. Buzz! Lu Ming reached out and grabbed half of the young man's body. Spare me. The young man was not dead yet and he was begging for mercy in fear. It's too late to beg for mercy now. Lu Ming swung his arm and threw half of the young man's body into the forest. Instantly, dense sword-tailed discs flew out of the forest. No, the young man roared. In the next moment he was drowned by the sword-tail plate. His whole body was pierced into a hornet's nest and he died on the spot. Did I let you go? Lu Ming took a step forward, his body like a stream of light. The other young man was almost scared to death when he saw Lu Ming's combat strength. He fled in fear. However, Lu Ming's speed was so fast that he caught up to him in a few breaths. The result was already decided. With one move, the young man was half dead. Lu Ming followed the same pattern and threw the heavily injured young man into the forest, where he was pierced by 10,000 arrows. Then Lu Ming continued to walk forward. The dense sword-tail disc rushed out of the forest and pounced at Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming covered his entire body with the chaos domain and cast the wind element technique. His entire person seemed to have transformed into a long spear and he charged forward. The sword-tail disc exploded wherever Lu Ming passed by, opening a path in the dense cluster of sword-tail discs. The sword-tail disc could not stop Lu Ming at all. Not long after, Lu Ming successfully rushed through the forest and approached the sword pagoda. The strange thing was that as soon as they rushed through the forest, the sword-tail plates stopped chasing and all retreated. Boom! Buzz! Chapter 1428. 1428 Chapter 1428 Sword Pagoda Confrontation. The royal fruit was a rare treasure. It was said that a low-level martial emperor's cultivation would rise by one level after eating a royal fruit. Even a high-level martial emperor would be of great help after taking it. It could help one break through a bottleneck. In the martial emperor realm, if one wanted to improve their cultivation, they first needed to improve their territory, then cultivate their vital essence and form a spirit body. However, the royal fruit could directly raise one's cultivation by one level. The most amazing thing was that no matter what field a warrior cultivated in, it would be useful when consumed. Such a treasure was simply heaven-defying. It was no wonder that these people were so busy fighting over it. The 3 royal fruits are mine. Lu Ming moved and pounced toward the royal fruit. The primal chaos domain he cultivated was dozens or even hundreds of times more difficult to level up than ordinary domains. However, if he had the royal domain fruit, how much time and energy could he save? Such a rare treasure was hard to come by. Since he had encountered it, how could Lu Ming give it up? You're looking for death. You want to take the royal fruit? Die. The 4 people who were in the midst of a chaotic battle had also discovered Lu Ming. They roared angrily and attacked Lu Ming at the same time. The combat strength of these 4 people was very shocking and had surpassed people like Yin Feng. Even Lu Ming could not ignore the 4 of them when they attacked in anger. Boom, 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 boom. Lu Ming threw 4 consecutive punches, crushing the attacks of the 4 people. What powerful strength! The 4 of them were shocked when they saw that Lu Ming had destroyed their attack with just a wave of his fist. We're no match for this man's combat strength alone. If he gets the royal fruit, we'll have no hope at all. A young man said. That's right. Why don't we join forces and kill this man first before we fight for the royal fruit? All right. I was thinking the same thing. The 4 young men moved in a flash and surrounded Lu Ming in the middle. Powerful steam engines were released and locked onto Lu Ming. Get lost. Lu Ming bellowed, forming a terrifying sound wave that attacked a young man in front of him. At the same time, he threw a punch at the young man in front of him. If he wanted to fight, he had to focus on one person. The young man's expression changed. He did not expect that Lu Ming would dare to make the first move against the 4 of them. Sword chi bloomed in his hand. A sharp sword chi burst out and broke the air wave that Lu Ming spat out. However, when his sword gleam slashed at Lu Ming's fist, his expression changed drastically. As the primal chaos domain crushed down, his sword light was like a willow leaf in the wind, rapidly swaying as if it would collapse at any moment. At this moment, the other 3 people also made their moves. The saber beam, the palm print, and the spear's gleam were all aimed at Lu Ming at the same time. However, Lu Ming pretended not to see it. The chaos realm covered his entire body, shrouding Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. The 3 attacks landed on the chaos domain. The chaos domain shook violently but did not break. The expressions of the 3 people changed drastically. What kind of domain is this? How can it be so terrifying? The same thought flashed through the minds of the 3. The primal chaos domain was a legendary domain. Not many people could recognize it. Furthermore, they had never imagined that someone in the world could cultivate the primal chaos domain. The trio's attacks did not break the chaos domain, but Lu Ming's attack continued to crush it. Bang! The sword light of the youth in front of him finally couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. And NBSP, the primal chaos domain, exploded with terrifying fist energy. Chapter 1429. 1429 Snatching Wang Xiao's face fell, and his body fell to the ground. Whoosh. At this moment, Luo Xiang shot up into the sky and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming borrowed Wang Xiao's power to rise to the top. He twisted his body and stepped forward, moving tens of meters to the top of the landing zone. Immediately after, Luo Xiang also flew over. Buzz. After Luo Xiang, it was Wang Xiao's turn. He landed on the ground and looked at Lu Ming with a dark expression. As the leader of Jiuxiao Sword Sect's expedition into the secret realm, he had just been kicked down by Lu Ming, an unknown person. This made his expression turn ugly. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze was attracted to the front. In front of him there were 3 balls of light floating in the air. A book was floating in one of the balls of light. It seemed to be made of gold, but it wasn't. What was strange was that on the surface of the book, there was a figure dancing with a sword. It was a very mysterious sight. It was a martial technique, a sword technique. The second ball of light only had a sword. The sword was snow white, and with just a glance, one could feel a terrifying sword light slashing out. A holy weapon. This sword was definitely a powerful holy weapon. The third ball of light was much simpler. There were only 100 fist-sized stones. The heavenly Dao stone. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The three of them moved almost at the same time. Lu Ming pounced toward the heavenly Dao stone. To Lu Ming, the swordsmanship secret manual was not of much use to him. He was not a swordsman and did not cultivate the sword. As for the saint weapon long sword, although it was precious, it wasn't of much use to him. If he were to take it out, he would only be selling it. These were not as attractive as the heavenly Dao stone. The heavenly Dao stone was the root of improving one's strength. As long as one had strength, would one need to worry about not having treasures? Lu Ming pounced toward the heavenly stone's light sphere, Luo Xiang pounced toward the art of swordplay, and Wang Xiao pounced toward his holy weapon sword. Bang! Lu Ming grabbed the ball of light. The ball of light shook but did not break. It really has a protective function. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Following that, the chaos realm covered Lu Ming's palm. He activated the prison-suppressing heaven technique and struck the ball of light with his palm. Buzz! The ball of light shook violently. Although it didn't break, the light from the ball of light dimmed. Continue. Lu Ming launched a series of attacks. The chaos realm combined with the prison-suppressing heavenly technique was extremely powerful. The ball of light shook continuously and flickered. In less than 10 breaths, Lu Ming had struck more than 100 times. Finally, the ball of light collapsed with a poof, turning into light spots and disappearing. Lu Ming grabbed down and put more than 100 heavenly Dao stones into his storage ring. Lu Ming had a smile on his face. In total, he had obtained more than 200 heavenly Dao stones. The heavenly Dao stones were so precious that even Sage Realm experts would want to look for them. They would be envious if they saw them. Lu Ming's trip to the Great Emperor Secret Realm this time was not in vain. After putting away the heavenly Dao stone, he looked around and found that Luo Xiang and Wang Xiao still hadn't broken through the light. Sword light burst out from their hands and continuously slashed at the ball of light. The ball of light trembled and its light dimmed. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile as he pounced towards the ball of light Wang Xiao was in. He struck out with his palm, causing the ball of light to tremble violently. "What are you doing?" Wang Xiao roared in anger. Lu Ming sneered. He could not be bothered with him and struck out with his palm. "Brat, you dare to fight me for my saint weapon? You're looking for death." Wang Xiao hollered in rage and the sword in his hand flashed as he slashed towards Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming kicked out. This kick was also a combination of the prison-suppressing heaven technique and the chaos domain. Wang Xiao's sword light was shattered and his body was forced back 2 steps. Bang! Lu Ming struck the ball of light with his palm again. With a poof, the ball of light was destroyed. Lu Ming grabbed the holy weapon longsword and kept it in his storage ring. "Brat, hand over your saint weapon." Wang Xiao let out a furious roar as he pounced towards Lu Ming, his sword chi shooting towards Lu Ming like a rainbow. "You want a saint weapon? Let's see if you have the ability." Lu Ming sneered. Wang Xiao had attacked Lu Ming the moment he entered the room. Now that he had the chance to snatch a saint weapon, how could Lu Ming be polite? Lu Ming's palm was like a blade, slashing down continuously. Under Lu Ming's palm, Wang Xiao's sword radiance was destroyed one after another. Damn it! Wang Xiao was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. However, he was shocked to find that he could not do anything to Lu Ming at all. In fact, Lu Ming's attacks were stronger than his, but he was actually being suppressed by Lu Ming. Buzz! And NBSP whoosh. Lu Ming waved his hands, bringing with it his chaos domain. In an instant he sent out a dozen palm strikes which were like a dozen mountains pressing down on Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao raised his cultivation to the peak of the 2nd level of the martial emperor realm, and a sword light burst forth as he tried to break out of the mountain. Buzz! Buzz! And NBSP whoosh. Sparks flew in all directions and the sword chi was extinguished. Wang Xiao used all his strength and finally managed to break through the gap, rushing out of Lu Ming's attack range. He retreated far away, feeling the qi and blood in his body churning. He looked at Lu Ming with a serious expression. At this time, Luo Xiang also broke through the light ball and put away the kendo manual. Detestable. Wang Xiao was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. Originally there were 3 of them, so there were exactly 3 treasures. But in the end Lu Ming got 2 and he did not get a share. That was a holy weapon. If he could refine 1 or 2 of them, his combat power would definitely increase greatly. Unfortunately it was in Lu Ming's hands now. He glared at Lu Ming viciously. What, you want to die? Lu Ming glanced at Wang Xiao with a murderous look in his eyes. Buzz. At this moment, not far in front of the 3 of them, a spot of light suddenly lit up in the space. The spot of light was resplendent and slowly a small sword appeared there. The small sword was only the size of a palm, but it was bright and resplendent. The light was like tiny little swords spreading in all directions. Leggy. The 3 men's hearts moved and their eyes bloomed with a fiery light. Lu Ming frowned. Sure, Tian must have also received an inheritance. Because he had just received the inheritance not long ago, he had not refined it yet. Therefore, this inheritance had the function of automatically protecting the owner. After refining it, this function would disappear. Next time, if the inheritance can't protect its master, it'll kill you. There was a sharp glint in Lu Ming's eyes. Lu Ming, are you all right? Qiao Ying stepped forward and asked. I'm fine, let's go. Lu Ming said. The aura of the heavenly Dao here was too powerful. It was many times stronger than the heavenly Dao engravings that Lu Ming had faced previously. This kind of power was far beyond what they could bear at their level. Not only could they not comprehend the Dao from it, but they also felt a strong pressure on their bodies. This was the pressure of the heavenly Dao. However, Lu Ming's chaos domain shook and the pressure from the heavenly Dao disappeared without a trace. Everything in the world comes from the chaos. The chaos realm, the emperor of thousands of realms, and the aura of the heavenly Dao are useless against the chaos realm. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then he continued forward. The stone bridge was very narrow and could only allow 1 person to pass. Lu Ming strode forward and very quickly he had covered half the distance. However, at this moment Lu Ming suddenly turned around and went back the way he came. What is this person doing? I thought he could pass the test easily. Why did he return now? It doesn't mean anything if he was relaxed at the start. Perhaps he was more relaxed when he charged forward with all his might. It's normal for him to be lacking in strength now. That's true, this stone bridge isn't something anyone can cross. Lu Ming's actions caused some people to discuss. Qiao Ying, Qiao Hao and the others were also surprised. Based on their understanding of Lu Ming, he should have no problem crossing the stone bridge given his abilities. Why did he return the way he came? Very soon Lu Ming reached the bridge. Ying, brother Qiu, come up. I'll bring you over. Lu Ming said. What? Qiu Ying, Qiu Hao and the three Yuan brothers were all stunned. The others were also stunned. Lu Ming had returned and he actually wanted to bring people over? How was this possible? It would be difficult for anyone to go there alone, and even a genius like Wang Xiao would find it difficult to reach the second half of the journey. And now Lu Ming was saying that he wanted to bring someone along. This was really hard to believe. Ying, Lu Ming called out again. Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao finally reacted. Ah, okay. Qiu Ying was the first to step forward and stood in front of Lu Ming, while Qiu Hao stood behind him. Stepping onto the stone bridge meant that their lives were in danger. However, they chose to believe in Lu Ming. He had brought them too many miracles along the way. Brother Wan, I'll send Ying and the others over first. I'll come and find you later. Lu Ming said to Wan Tian. Ah, okay. Wan Tian nodded in a daze, still a little confused. Let's go. The chaos domain enveloped Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao, and the three of them stepped onto the stone bridge. Although the chaos realm was wonderful, it was only at level 1. Moreover, the stone bridge was very narrow and could only allow one person to walk. Therefore, Lu Ming could not bring too many people at one time. Chapter 1437. 1437. The Goshawk and the Black Shadow. So it's a bright saint weapon. Black wings. Lu Ming's heart stirred. The bright saint weapon was the exclusive weapon of the bright saint. Above that, there were great saint weapons and absolute saint weapons. After a round of refinement, Lu Ming had only gained a preliminary grasp of this holy weapon. He could not refine it completely with his current cultivation. He could only refine it slowly in the future and deepen his grasp of the black wings. He tossed the black wings and they flew behind Lu Ming, sinking into his back. The next moment Lu Ming had an idea. Well, on his back the black wings spread out, making Lu Ming look as if he had grown a pair of wings out of thin air. Buzz. With a flap of the black wings, Lu Ming's figure disappeared from his original spot at an astonishing speed. Lu Ming circled the stone chamber dozens of times before returning to his original spot. Not bad. Lu Ming was very satisfied with the black wings. He had the black wings. If he combined them with the power of the wind elemental technique and the air frozen bead, his speed would definitely be greatly increased. At the same time, the black wings also had a strong offensive power. Moreover, the wings could cover the whole body and have a strong defensive ability. This spirit weapon could be said to be one of the very few spirit weapons that had all the functions. If it was sold, the price would be more than 10 times more expensive than other spirit weapons of the same level. With a thought, the black wings retracted and disappeared into his skin. Then Lu Ming looked around. Other than the black wings and the passage in front of him, there was nothing else in the stone room. Lu Ming stepped forward and walked toward the passage. Gah! All of a sudden a screech was heard. A huge black goshawk appeared at the entrance of the passage and pounced at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression changed. Of course, this goshawk was not real. It was condensed from some kind of energy. Most importantly, it had appeared too suddenly. Lu Ming subconsciously retreated rapidly. However, he realized that the goshawk did not give chase. Instead, it hovered in the air and looked at Lu Ming. Young man, go back. Don't continue forward or there will be a great disaster. The goshawk suddenly spoke. Who are you? Lu Ming asked. Doesn't matter who I am. Let's go back. There's no road ahead. The goshawk spoke again. Great disaster? No way out. I don't believe it. If I don't try, how will I know there's no way out? Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. They had encountered so many obstacles along the way. How could Lu Ming be blocked by a goshawk? The goshawk seemed to sigh. It flapped its wings and pounced at Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming activated his chaos domain and threw a punch. The violent fist force crushed over, causing the stone room to rumble and shake. "This is the Chaos Domain?" The goshawk cried out in alarm. Then it flapped its wings rapidly and a terrifying gale swept out. The strong wind and Lu Ming's fist force collided, creating a series of explosive sounds. In the end, the strong wind disappeared and Lu Ming could not help but take a few steps back. Such powerful strength. Lu Ming's expression turned grave. "It seems that I have to use my full strength." Lu Ming pondered in his heart. But at this moment a change suddenly occurred. A figure suddenly appeared in the void. It was a black shadow that was shrouded in black light. Its appearance could not be seen clearly. The moment it appeared, it pounced at the goshawk. The black shadow and the goshawk were engaged in an intense battle. "Young man, I'll hold him back. You can go over." An old voice came from the shadow. It sounded gentle and comfortable. "Don't go over, you have to hear me," the goshawk cried out. Boom. The black shadow pounced on the goshawk and launched an even fiercer attack. The battle was intense. Lu Ming frowned. What was going on with the goshawk and the black shadow? Was it the checkpoint of this place? Or was it a test? Why did one of them let him go over while the other didn't? Perhaps it's just a test. Pass. Lu Ming made a decision. Since they were already here, Lu Ming could not possibly give up and leave just because of a few words from a goshawk. Buzz. He activated the wind elemental technique and the energy of the air-frozen bead gushed into the air. Lu Ming took advantage of the gap between the goshawk and the black shadow to dash into the passage and disappear. Boom. The goshawk and the black shadow exchanged a blow and both retreated. AI. The goshawk sighed as it watched Lu Ming leave. Hee Emperor Song, you want to stop them? Impossible. In the end you have lost this round. A cold and ear-piercing laughter came from the black shadow, which was completely different from the gentle voice just now. However, Lu Ming could no longer hear these words. He followed the passageway and advanced. Soon light appeared in front of him. He had reached the end of the passageway. Clang. Boom. In front of him there was a violent roar and the sound of metal clashing. Someone was fighting. Lu Ming slowed down and dashed through the entrance of the passageway. Whoosh. As soon as Lu Ming rushed out, he saw a small black flag flying toward him. Demonic chi was rolling on the small flag. It's an emperor's spiritual weapon without an owner. Lu Ming had an idea. Get lost. Suddenly, an overbearing roar came from the front. A huge palm formed entirely of demonic chi grabbed at Lu Ming and the small flag. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He threw a punch and the huge palm exploded. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed the small black flag. "Brat, you dare to stop me?" An overbearing voice rang out. In front of Lu Ming, a young man was staring at him coldly. The demonic aura around him was monstrous. "This place is..." Lu Ming's gaze swept past the young man, then he looked elsewhere. This was a huge hall that was extremely wide. In the void, there were many rays of treasure light dancing. Within them, there were many young men chasing after these treasure lights. Emperor spiritual weapons and even holy weapons. Lu Ming revealed a look of surprise. Most of the lights dancing in the air were Emperor spiritual weapons. There were hundreds of them and there were even saint weapons and elixirs. There were about a dozen young men flying around chasing after these treasures. From time to time they would get into a fight over the treasures. So strong. Lu Ming noticed that these young men were all at the second level of the martial royal realm. Lu Ming saw a few familiar faces among them. He Yu, the leader of Dragon God Valley, Wang Xiao, the leader of Jiuxiao Sword Sect, Shi Tian, the leader of Tianshan Sect, Luo Xiang, the leader of Life and Death Sword Sect. They were all the leaders of the various sects who had entered this place. Hand over your saint weapon and I'll spare your life. The green-robed young man said as he stared at Lu Ming coldly. If you want to die, come here. Lu Ming's simple reply was extremely domineering. The green-robed young man's face was gloomy, and his body was filled with cold, killing intent. He was the leader of the Yu sect, one of the 13 top forces that had entered the Great Emperor secret realm. He was powerful and skilled in using poison. Even the leaders of the other sects were wary of him. Now Lu Ming actually dared to speak to him in this manner. "You're looking for death." He had already sentenced Lu Ming to death in his heart. 10,000 poison bloodthirsty. Die. The green-robed young man shouted coldly and pounced at Lu Ming. He waved his palm and a dense swarm of poisonous insects appeared. These poisonous insects had a hard shell on their bodies and kept spewing poisonous gas from their mouths. What was even more amazing was that these poisonous insects were actually grouping up. Countless poisonous insects formed a combat weapon and charged at Lu Ming. In the air, more than 10 combat weapons suddenly appeared. They were all made up of poisonous insects and they were either combat swords or combat sabers. The similarity was that each of them was filled with poison. Devour. Lu Ming opened his palm and the terrifying devouring power enveloped all the poisonous insects. The devouring power burst forth and the dense poisonous gas was instantly absorbed by Lu Ming. The poisonous insects were also sucked dry of their blood essence in an instant. Their blood fell to the ground like raindrops. What a powerful poisonous gas. After devouring so much poisonous gas, Lu Ming felt that his body was slightly numb. Lu Ming could not help but sigh at the power of this poisonous gas. This was the first time that Lu Ming's body felt numb from being poisoned. In the past, any poisonous gas that was devoured by Lu Ming's devouring power would be refined and would not affect him at all. This is the Yuan continent after all. This poisonous gas also gave Lu Ming a reminder. After all, this was the Yuan continent, not the continent group of the divine ruins. The laws of heaven and earth were complete, and everything in the world was different from the continent group of the divine ruins. It was possible that some terrifying poisonous gas was born, and even the devouring power could not devour it. Lu Ming warned himself that he could not be careless when facing poisonous gas in the future. Of course, the green-robed young man's poisonous gas was nothing to Lu Ming. It only numbed Lu Ming's body slightly before it was refined by the refining power. "You," the green-robed young man looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. His poisonous gas had been devoured by Lu Ming. How was this possible? Even an expert with a much higher cultivation than him would not dare to face his poison head-on, let alone devour it into his body. Bang. He took a step forward and pounced toward Lu Ming like a human-shaped T-Rex. His hand turned into a dragon's claw as he tried to grab Lu Ming. Blood dragon combat body. I'd like to see how strong it is. Lu Ming threw a punch. Bang. The fist and the dragon claw collided with a dull boom. Then his body trembled and he was forced to retreat. This person is so powerful. He can actually force Hiyu to retreat in a head-on battle. And NBSP, the gazes of the other youths around him focused. Among them, his close combat ability was the strongest and no one was his match in close combat. However, Lu Ming managed to force Hiyu to retreat. It was simply shocking. We'd better attack together. This man is demonic and not easy to deal with. Xianxia said with cold killing intent. Lu Ming was someone he had to kill. Think so too. Let's join forces and kill this person. Hiyu, you don't have any objections, right? Wang Xiao said, his gaze turning to Hiyu. Don't worry. This person is lawless. He even dared to hurt my fellow disciples of Dragon God Valley. He is lawless and deserves to be killed. Hiyu coldly said. So many people against one person and you still speak so eloquently. How despicable. A disdainful voice was heard. It was not Lu Ming but Luo Xiang. Humph. Xianxia and the others' eyes turned cold, but they didn't say anything. Attack. Xianxia spoke and made the first move. Holy light surged around him and condensed into a holy spear, which flew toward Lu Ming. At the same time, Wang Xiao's palm released a burst of sword qi, and an extremely sharp sword light cut through the air towards Lu Ming. Then the youth in the green robe and the demonic qi attacked. Together with Hiyu, the six of them could fight both at close range and at long range. Moreover, they were all peerless geniuses and their combat strength far exceeded ordinary emperors. Even a LV4 martial royal realm expert would be killed in an instant if the six of them joined forces. Even those at the 5th level of the martial emperor realm had to retreat. Kill, die. Lu Ming shouted. He flapped his black wings and charged at one of them. Lu Ming would not stand in the middle like a fool and be a live target. If he wanted to fight, he would defeat them one by one. Lu Ming chose the green-robed young man. Among the 6 of them, the green-robed young man was the least threatening to Lu Ming. Lu Ming dodged 3 attacks at top speed and took 2 of them head-on. He rushed to the front of the young man in green. His third bloodline emerged and waves of energy surged into Lu Ming's body, increasing his strength once again. He stretched out his left hand and the devouring power burst out, covering the young man in green. At the same time, he threw a punch with his right hand. The prison-suppressing heavenly art combined with the chaos domain and crushed out. Boom. Chapter 1440 Killing a Leader, Exterminate. Lu Ming pressed his palm and the chaos domain expanded, enveloping the poisonous gas that the green-robed young man had turned into and began to refine it. Help! The green mist rolled and the green-robed young man's scream came out. This sound was, of course, made by the vibration of energy. Release him! A loud roar was heard and demonic might surged. A small tower filled with demonic chi flew out from the top of the young man's head. It expanded rapidly and pressed down on Lu Ming. A holy weapon. Without a doubt, this small pagoda was also a holy weapon. These people were the leaders of their respective sections. Being able to make it here, they naturally had great gains. Each of them had obtained a saint weapon. The demonic youth was called Wuxia from the Tianyu demonic sect. This pagoda was the saint weapon he had obtained when he entered the Great Emperor's secret realm. Although he couldn't use much of a holy weapon's power with his cultivation, it was still stronger than an emperor weapon. The small pagoda turned into the size of a small mountain and pressed down on Lu Ming. There was a terrifying suction force at the bottom of the pagoda that seemed to be trying to suck Lu Ming in. Buzz. On Lu Ming's back, one of the black wings flapped out and expanded rapidly. Like a blade, it slashed at the pagoda. Clang. The small tower trembled and demonic chi churned as it was sent flying. However, the black wings were suppressed by the small tower and they also flew back. Boom. Boom. Buzz. Buzz. At this moment, a powerful aura burst out from Hiyu Wang Xiao Shirtian and the burly young man. A combat weapon emerged from each of their bodies. They were all holy weapons. They all used their holy weapons to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression turned grave. Without his holy weapon, Lu Ming would not be afraid even if he were to be besieged by 6 masters. He might even win. However, since all of the opponents had used their holy weapons, the effect of their own combat strength was reduced. It became a collision between holy weapons, which was not good for Lu Ming. Buzz. Lu Ming's glabella glowed and the lightning cauldron floated out. Bang. At this moment, a sword light flashed across the sky and a jade box was shattered. A jade talisman flew out of the jade box. Hiyu and the rest surrounded Lu Ming, but the others were not just watching the show. They were chasing after the only 2 jade boxes left in the sky. The jade box from before contained a jade armor. It was clear that the treasure in the jade box was definitely more precious. As soon as the jade talismans appeared, the remaining few people began to fight for them. The faces of Hiyu, Shirtian and the others changed. I'll spare him this time, Shirtian said. He was the first to rush into the sky and participate in the fight for the jade talismans. When the others saw this, they also went to fight for the jade talismans. Lu Ming's expression was calm. He did not join in the fun. Instead, he looked at the last jade box. This jade box was the fastest of the 3 and it danced in the air like a bolt of lightning. Buzz. Lu Ming suddenly made a move. He stretched out his palm and a huge hand formed, grabbing the jade box. However, the jade box was extremely agile. It dodged Lu Ming's palm in a flash. Then Lu Ming cast the wind element technique in a flash and chased after the jade box like lightning. However, the jade box glowed and its speed suddenly increased, leaving Lu Ming in the dust. Ill go. Lu Ming could not help but curse in his heart. A jade box was actually faster than him. Was there any justice in this world? Lu Ming chased after the jade box. On the other side, the outcome of the battle for the jade talismans had already been decided. In the end, the jade talisman was obtained by a peerless woman. Xianxia and the others' eyes flickered, but they did not continue to snatch it. Chapter 1441 Chapter 1441 Saint Breakthrough Pill in hand. However, to Lu Ming's surprise, although the Saint Breakthrough Pill was blocked for a moment, it was only for a moment. The Saint Breakthrough Pill pierced through the large hand that Lu Ming had condensed and rushed past. Even the huge hand formed by the Chaos Domain could not stop the Saint Breakthrough Pill. The level of my Chaos Domain is still too low. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He knew that it wasn't that the Chaos Realm was useless, but that the level of his Chaos Realm was too low. It was only a level 1 realm, so it couldn't stop the Saint Breakthrough Pill. Then the others all made their moves, but none of them managed to get the Saint Breakthrough Pill. Suddenly Lu Ming had an idea. Bubbles and Dandan appeared on his shoulders. The two fellows were still burping and the smell of medicine was coming out of their mouths. Another spirit herb? As soon as Dandan appeared, her eyes were rolling around. Dandan, Bubble, help me get that lousy Saint Pill. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Dandan and Bubbles. Lu Ming had just finished speaking when Bubbles waved its pair of small claws. The space churned like waves as the bubble danced. Plang. The Saint Breakthrough Pill was flying, but it suddenly seemed to hit a hard wall with a thud. The space had been frozen by the bubble. Lu Ming was overjoyed. As expected of a spacetime spirit mouse, Bubbles could control time and space. Even in the Yuan continent where space was extremely stable, Bubbles could still control space. With a wave of her claws, the space around her was controlled and turned into a spatial box, sealing the Saint Breakthrough Pill within. As for Lu Ming, he moved his body and rushed over. Stop him! Wang Xiao shouted, and a sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. With a wave of his hand he destroyed the sword ray. The mountain and river diagram appeared between his eyebrows. He was going to put the Saint Breakthrough Pill into the mountain and river diagram. However, at this moment the Saint Breakthrough Pill shone brightly. The light was like a sharp sword, breaking the frozen space formed by the bubble in one fell swoop. Then, like a bolt of lightning, it rushed to the side of the stone room. On the side of the stone room there was a passage. The Saint Breakthrough Pill rushed into the passage directly. Where do you think you're going? Lu Ming cast the wind element technique. With a flap of his black wings he flew toward the tunnel like lightning. Chase. Behind him the others were also chasing after him. Dandan, stop them. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Dandan. Leave it to me. Dandan grinned. Buzz. After Lu Ming rushed into the passage, Dandan opened its mouth. In a flash of light, a shield condensed and blocked the passage. Xianxia was the first to arrive. He punched the shield, but the shield didn't move at all. Damn it! Xianxia roared. Following that, the others also rushed over and launched their attacks. However, when their attacks landed on the tortoise shell shield, they were unable to break it in a short time. Dandan had consumed too many spiritual herbs during this period of time, as well as a few half-saint herbs from before. Her injuries had already recovered and she had even advanced. The turtle shell shield that he had condensed with all his strength was not so easy to break. Damn it, that's the core. Quickly break the turtle shell. Let's attack together. Anxious voices rang out as Xianxia, Wang Xiao, and the others joined forces to attack. The tortoise shield trembled and it would be broken soon. However, to Lu Ming, it was enough that he could block it for a while. After Lu Ming rushed into the passage, he did not stop and chased after the Saint Breakthrough Pill at top speed. The bubble shrieked and suddenly flew off Lu Ming's shoulder.